Something's up here. It's just being by myself. Shamayer, you're late.
Hey.
That was so.
No, that was funny from our end, but okay. To everyone, I made Onimaru yesterday. I was like, since I spent over a year completing this, which was supposed to be, we were supposed to do this podcast a year ago, and then I took forever to watch the show. I was like, okay, how about you go in and then I'll come in late, and you could be like, you're late, Shaw Mittermeier.
Yeah, I was like,
Shamayer,
Shaw Mittermeier.
And that's essentially what happened. So
yeah, for the people that just went on, like, we're like, we totally missed it. We didn't see it.
Yeah, it's okay. So to the podcast, technically over a year in the making, we are here.
We are here, and I actually need to serve myself.
Oh, you're gonna? I was gonna pour it, but then I didn't do it because my kitchen is out there. Shout out to my dog father, Glass. I like this. I'm not a dog father. I'm a dog mother, so I can't qualify, but
that's cool. And for copyright or whatever purposes, this is apple juice. This is apple juice.
Mine does look like apple juice.
Yeah, but here's a toast to the most legendary series.
Legendary series, legendary goats, and then hopefully legendary podcast.
Yeah. So I was gonna say something. Oh well, whatever. But yeah, no, I'm gonna take a sip.
Cheers, everyone, and everyone in chat. Cheers to legendary homies in chat.
If you have your drink, cheers to you.
Oh my god, I can't do apple juice without another thing mixed in it. I'm so bad.
That's why I said pick one that you're good with. But even though most of them are kind of the same.
I love whiskey. This is not whiskey, wink wink, but I love whiskey ginger, so I'm not a legendary admiral who can just.
Okay, I like the highball, so I like mixing it with seltzer. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
With ginger, sour, with Coke, tried and true. If you're new to the stream, welcome to the stream. Actually, really quick before we actually get into it, I've been hearing on the last two pods that like my audio's been like a lot lower than Shaw's, and I tried fixing it today. So let me know. Like, we're gonna do a quick live mic test. Just let me know if how it is in comparison. If I need to kick it up some more. I hope it's good. I really don't want to be dealing with this right now. But yeah.
I think it sounds okay. We'll probably find out. It's just a backhanded way of saying that I sound loud.
You're like, as long as I sound crisp, that's all that matters.
I don't know if I've ever had good audio, but I just keep moving forward.
I listened to the episodes and questions afterward, and I'm like, oh wait, that's like a drastic difference. I kind of sound like really low, so
yeah.
I was like, maybe
we'll see.
I don't know what's going on. So,
as they say, we keep moving forward.
Yeah, so with the silence, I'm taking it to be that we're good. So
yeah,
we're gonna just kick it off again. Let me know in the middle of the chat. I'm in the middle of the stream if we need to raise the volume some more. But without further ado, let's get into it.
Wait.
And
I was gonna low-key start singing like do this theme like badly, but that's so much better. Yay.
Yeah, so here we are. Welcome to a new episode of the Just Weebs podcast. We are your hosts, Onimaru and Shocking. And like Shocking was just saying, this pod has been like a year in the making. I had watched the series originally like in like 2 weeks.
I looked it up.
I was supposed to.
I looked it up. You finished of like July 17th last year. Like almost exactly. I looked it up.
So it was like July or June. I think it was June. June?
No, it was really, I'm going to double check because it was like very weirdly almost exactly to the date of when we were going to originally stream, but I was still late. So
it's all good. I was just like, I literally had no one to talk to about it.
I feel so bad.
I was like, I'm gonna take this experience and just kind of keep it with me until the day it's ready.
As they say.
About. And it took a while to cook, but maybe now it's here.
Looking it up.
I'm excited. I am glad you caught up. So one of the original reasons, like the original intent of doing this pod and wanting to like explore, like actually watch the series is because I actually knew very little about it. I just knew it was so highly rated on Mal. And the only other place I would see it on was like, I don't know, elitist starter packs and stuff like
memes.
Like this is like a snooty anime. It's like pretentious if you're full of yourself. I'm like, okay, but it's got to be highly rated for a reason, and that always like makes me curious. So I wanted to see like, does this live up to the hype? And if I watch this and I like it, is it gonna ruin all of anime for me? Like, is it just like nothing's gonna top this? Is this gonna be like the peak? So, we're gonna find out how we felt about it. Although I think like people who follow you on Twitter kind of know where you.
Okay, they know, but they don't know. They were like glad to have everyone who was really nice following my unhinged live tweets of the series, which was like very like, I don't know. It's a very smart show, and I had very dumb takeaways. So excited for that.
I caught some of them. They were really funny. I was like, okay, this is funny.
I'll have to go into one that I'm proud of, but yeah, they were like glad to have another one on board. I'm like, hey, what if I just turn around and give it a 6? You guys don't know. They do know, but like what they don't know. So
someone in chat, light 8.
Light 8. Best anime of all time, light 8 out of 10.
Light 8.
Yeah, that'd be so funny. So yeah, it was a fun experience. So this, for everyone wondering, this is the non-spoiler section. This is kind of
I was just gonna ask about that. Like, how much can we actually talk about like non-spoiler? I'm just genuinely curious.
I say we can just lead it with like, here's Legend of the Galactic Heroes, what everyone kind of knows about it, like its reputation in the community, and then just kind of go from there, and then just like, very loudly announce when we're going to talk about spoilers, because I would not want to spoil anyone on this. Yeah, everyone in chat's open. Humble 8. I still don't get the Humble 8. Shout out to Andres. I don't get the Humble 8. If I ever call someone a humble score, I'm going to just like never
someone else in
again.
chat. Worst anime I've ever seen, 9.5.
Yeah.
I would have to be like, what kind of scale is that? So let's continue off of that. Like, what have you heard? What, like, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, how it is seen in the community? We'll talk about that first. And obviously, feel free to chime in chat, anything that we miss or any questions or anything you want us to talk about. I kind of didn't look too much up aside from my like initial viewing, and I kind of went into it, and then a little bit recently while I was like refreshing on it. So like, what's your view? What was your view of Legend of the Galactic Heroes when you were going into it? Because I think you knew a lot of the stuff that happens in it without context.
So I guess I had a very roundabout experience with it. So I have heard about Legend of the Galactic Heroes for a while, essentially since I got into anime. I think everyone who has been on my anime list, for better or worse, we hear about a lot of anime from that. So you see the top 10 list, of course, and, everything, you see a lot of familiar faces from like Full Metal Alchemist, Steins Gate, Hunter x Hunter, Gintama, and like 8 spots, whatever. And then you always see in these top lists, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, in the Japanese name, of course, which Ginga, no, I'm not finishing it. Everyone knows, I'm not doing it. The Japanese version of Legend of the Galactic Heroes. And then you're like, okay, what is this 100 episode OVA series from the 80s doing here? And then naturally, when you start talking to more people, you find out, oh yeah, Legend of the Galactic Heroes. It's like an older series, but it's like one of the most perfect anime of all time, one of the best executed, like flawless. And you hear it like really get hyped up to match the title of Legend of the Galactic Heroes. It has this very like larger than life title. And then I think you always kind of get some dissent here or there, like how perfect is it? How objectively perfect is it? When you hear a lot of elitists, as you say, or people who have been known for an elitist attitude, claim it is like the most perfect series without beyond reproach. And I think that kind of sets it up for failure sometimes, because it's hyped up to high heavens, and then people kind of naturally don't always align with that view, and then you kind of get into this weird conundrum where you're like, how really good is it? Or is it traditionally good, as in there are no flaws? or is it actually really good? And then, as you said, like, how elitist is it? Is it tough to get? Is it tough to really appreciate, tough to enjoy? And that's what you always want to go in and experience. And it was cool to like finally find out for ourselves, like, what's really behind the series.
Yeah, and I actually like I'll be real, it is like tough to get into cuz like
Yeah.
there are like it doesn't make it easy because there's like a ton of characters that are introduced and they're like like named characters. So it's
Yeah.
not even like just oh like some rando like this is going to be someone I'm not going to see, but because they name them you're just like okay, are they going to be relevant later? Like
Yeah.
what's going on? So while I was doing my like my rewatch, like I rewatched a bit, like bits and pieces, but I was going through just like the first season on like 3 times speed. Like I was just going quickly through it, and I was like, oh, you know what? It'd, like be a nice handy guide while I'm like refreshing on this. I should do like a character sheet, like an Excel sheet, like with all the characters,
A tracker.
like their allegiance, and like a screenshot. So like when I hear the name, I'm like, oh, this character. And so I started doing that for the first season because I figured, you know, it's a good foundation. And the Excel sheet came out to like 110 characters.
You actually stuck with it and did it. I would have given up.
Oh, I like when I was like around like in the 40s for 2 columns, I had 40 for the Galactic Empire and like 38 for like the Alliance. And I was like only like on episode 15. And I was just like, dude, I hate myself. I should give up. And I'm like, no, I gotta do this. I gotta see it through. And like there was even some characters that like were so minor, like not even mentioned. I'm like, no, I gotta put them in. I gotta do it. Like at some point I'm like, okay, I think this is starting to turn into like Pokemon for me. It's like gotta catch them all at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's a lot of named characters. Thankfully, you don't have to like follow that many characters, but still the characters that you do follow, it is a lot. So
yeah, I'm pretty accustomed to larger casts, and this one really was like, okay, I had to look some people up, and I made sure not to look up if they like died or anything. I would just look up like name and then picture to be like, okay, who is this dude? But it's just like so much at once. And I actually I didn't get to mention in my monologue that I had actually seen Dai's new thesis. I don't know, whatever.
Oh yeah,
the remake.
That's good to bring up. I have something to say about that, yeah.
I saw that first technically back when it came out in like 2016 or whatever, the first season. I've only seen the first season. And that was actually an incredibly helpful intro for starting the original series, because that actually goes into more of like the background events that they talk about in the original series that we only see in the Gaiden series, which is like, you know, the sequel side stories. Yeah. So Dai's new thesis, DNT, I'm calling it DNT. I don't know. I'm doing it. The new one. They did a bit more background information on some of the events, at least for the first season. But it also was weird in that like it didn't go in as much detail for other things. But I think for the sake of going back and watching the original series, it provided like a really good point of reference for some of the characters, even though, you know, character designs totally different, voice actors different, whatever. But it was cool to have that as a point of reference. And then I jumped in and it's like, okay, cool. So
like it was easier for you to follow along because you already
at least for the beginning stuff. But I think the beginning is just it is ridiculously dense. I think it's just very dense. So much information.
Okay, here's kind of had that same experience with not anime, but with Game of Thrones. So like when I tried reading the books, it helped having watched the show because like I could keep track more easily of the characters. And I just imagined if I had started on the books and not had the show as a reference, I'm like, this would have been a lot tougher to keep track of who's who. So
yeah. Chad has mentioned that some of the DNT designs I hate. Yeah, now I can see that they look terrible. Some of them look really bad. We can get into that in a bit later. But
the one thing I did, like, I never even checked it out. I didn't bother because I saw the only thing I did see is like fans of Legend of the Galactic Heroes were like, don't even bother with that show. Watch the original OVA, like whatever. And I didn't really see too many of the reasons. It was just sort of like a hard no. Just watch the original. So that's what I did. But when I like looked up recently, like what is there a difference in the storytelling between the new adaptation and the original? And one of the big things was it's kind of like just the scope. So like the original OVA focuses more on the bigger picture of the war, which I don't even know if the novels does that. I think that just the OVA chose to do that, and because of that, it'll like focus on like the most like bottom of society kind of character, like to like a character that's high up in the chain of command, like just different people. And because of that, like that kind of makes you focus more on the scope, and it gives the show itself like this giant scope that is fitting of like the name, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, like all this stuff going on, all these pieces and how they all kind of like tie in together. So
yeah, for sure. I think a new adaptation from the first season I saw was definitely more digestible than the same content covered in the original series. But I think part of that it does play into what you're talking about with the scope, where like we are just simply getting every possible piece of information accessible. Like it does have that like history book feeling where like you are sitting down and reading a history text on this time period, and so you're getting like everything.
Whereas and there's the news series, and you can tell me if it's true or not, like it just focuses more in on the dynamic, like the rivalry between the two mains, like kind of battling each other, and like more of what's in their heads versus like that bigger picture stuff. Yeah, exactly. I always see this D&T is done by the same people who made Kuroko no Basket. I like Kuroko no Basket, so that doesn't mean anything to me because I liked both series. And I get the point that like, you probably shouldn't treat them the same, but I don't think they do. And I like both, so that is just that's like 2 pluses for me. Yeah, and I get it's like tough. Like I feel like the way they're handling the new adaptation is obviously to make it easier to follow and more accessible, and obviously to streamline and make it more appealing in line with what anime is nowadays. But it's tough.
And there are some inherent positives. I think some of the battle designs and like the way a lot of the the way some of the fleets, I don't know, am I thinking fleet battles?
Yeah, I heard
like the way those are presented. Those are easier to follow. I think they look better. And that's just like some natural strengths here and there. And I think the voice actors are fantastic for like, it's kind of like the equivalent for the modern industry. So I think it's really cool. And I'm definitely going to finish D&T when I'm done the Gaiden spinoffs. But I think that's kind of all I have on D&T. But we could also talk about, I guess, do you have anything else on like just the general overview of the series? I think, I'll ask you, I'll phrase it as a question. When you went into it, how much of it did you know about like Yang and Reinhard?
I knew nothing.
So you knew absolutely nothing.
I knew nothing about Yang, and I think I heard the name Reinhard, but knew nothing like at all. So yeah, I knew nothing. I knew nothing of where the story was leading to. I didn't know what the point of it is. All I knew is, that it was highly praised, for some reason. And that it was 110 episodes, which also makes it daunting to get into.
Yes.
It's like, that's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, that contributed to me taking forever, but still bad planning on my part.
It's okay.
So
I was like determined.
You did really good. I'm excited to hear what you have to say because we have not spoken about any of this.
Yeah.
We don't know anything. I don't know how Onimaru feels about any of this. And then
Humble 8.
I'm also excited because I feel like you have the best like sense of fresh expectations. I don't know anything except people like it, so I'm going into it. Whereas I kind of had a lot of expectations just because I know I was very familiar with the characters. I knew how many of my friends had certain ones as favorites. I knew like who the characters had been compared to. So I had like a lot of just kind of like not necessarily high expectations, just I had some idea of what I was getting into. So
were you like a little not jaded, but like a little doubtful coming in? Like, all right, it can't, like you were like, probably isn't like.
I was more worried. I was worried because I wanted it to be a peak experience, and I was worried it wouldn't be a peak experience. But I knew it had the potential to be one. That's how I viewed it. I was like, it was kind of like, show me that you can be like the best anime of all time.
And
That's
were
how.
you well acquainted also with the criticisms that the show gets? And like, was
Yeah,
that in your
definitely.
head? Okay.
Yeah, everything from info dumping, textbook, like literally just dropping information is like historical
Yeah.
documentaries, like just dropping information to like the presentation is dated, animation bad, like
Yeah.
a whole scope.
Yeah. All right. We'll get into that, I think,
Okay.
in a second when we like go into, more of the full conversation. So I don't know if this like is still, should we still keep this in non-spoiler, but I guess, can I ask like, at what point, like how long did it take you? And I think you did tell me, for it to click in your brain, like that you were into this show, like that, like you were along
Yeah.
for the ride. Cause yeah.
Because I had that weird thing where I was like, I'd seen the first season, I'd seen the movie prequel of the first 2 episodes, and then like I think a year ago when we were watching it, I watched like 5 episodes, and I was like, okay, do I just jump in on those 5 episodes, or do I go back and start from episode 1 and make it like truly fresh start? So like I kind of had to like push myself to go back to episode 1 of this year, like fresh memory, and just do like, okay, push myself like episode 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I think by the time I forget when I messaged you, it was somewhere in season 1. It might have been around like episode 20 when I had finally gotten to like new content I had not seen in any form before. That's when I was kind of like, okay, let's go. So,
So it was just that it was new content and kind of like where things were kind of heating up towards the end of the season too.
yeah, I think it was around that time. I'm going to double check our DMs while you keep talking because I'm curious.
No big deal. I think at this point it's already been like quite a bit. We should probably get into spoiler territory. So if you have not watched Legend of the Galactic Heroes yet, this podcast will be waiting for you when you do finally decide to catch up. This is like the podcast of, I don't know, not all podcasts, but like this is the one we're planning to just say all of our thoughts on it. So it'll be here whenever you do decide to catch up. All of our thoughts will be in this one.
Oh no, not my mic.
Or Shaw's tweets. So So saying it again, spoilers, watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes and join us soon. Join the party. But yeah, so specifically, when did it click for you?
I found it. It was episode 22. I don't know what happens in episode 22.
Episode 22, I think they're fighting the Lipstadt rebellion. Or whatever. They're fighting the nobles. The nobles kind of ran away to like the Geiersburg fortress or whatever. And they're kind of like partying it up over there, and their admirals are like about to like jump ship or betray them and be like, these guys are fucking crazy. And I don't know if it was that episode or the next episode where like the dude's retainer, like the Admiral Ansbach or whatever, makes him like drink the poison and kind of like off himself, like kill himself, and then that's
the next one. That is the next one,
but it's like around that area. I think like maybe 22 was like a battle or something.
It's the episode before the nuke episode. Yes, so
gotcha.
Yes, I double checked
before they nuked the Westerlands or whatever.
That was really interesting. It's so funny looking back at this content, like almost 100 episodes later, and I'm like, damn, they really had some crazy ass fights back in the day.
Yeah,
It's only like
younger, they just did some shit.
I feel so much younger. but yeah, that was like a wild experience because you're like in season 1. Actually, a lot of stuff happens from. I mean, like we have the first confrontation with Yang and Reinhardt, where they're like, okay, real recognizes real, and then they go back to their own respective issues of like Yang dealing with like the most incompetent democracy of all time.
Bro.
And then Reinhardt kind of like rising up the ranks slowly but surely with Kirtiais, and like, both of them going on and then eventually winning over Oberstein to his camp. And I guess at this point, it's so funny that it's like, oh yeah, so we're just putting down the old crew after the Kaiser died, and now they're just going to town. So funny.
Yeah, no, like a lot of stuff just was going down, a lot to keep track of. And then like you'd have, again, the episodes focusing on the Empire, focusing on the Alliance, and then just sort of at the same time getting the backstory on like what's what, what is the kind of the political climate in Heineken and the Free Planets Alliance, and also like, you know, what everybody's afraid of, like the next Rudolph kind of coming to power and all that stuff. So, which is a little more later, but
Yeah, I have to say part of the frustration of watching season 1 had nothing to do with the quality of Legend of the Galactic Heroes and had everything to do with watching the realistic portrayal of utter systematic incompetence that made me want to I can't say, do not exist. I did not want to exist. It was so frustrating that you're seeing like this group, at least for the Alliance side, you're watching this group of politicians sitting around and talking about how in theory, they just won Ishaloran Fortress.
Yeah.
They just won that. And Yang is like, cool, we have like checkmate for we essentially have a good checkmate. So the why can't I think of it? What is it? The Imperial forces can't come through, and they have like a strategic advantage against the Imperial forces.
Fuck up every advantage they get.
Yeah. So they had an advantage, and Yang is like, okay, we can probably be at peace for a bit. And then you see these like assholes on the council who are literally like, okay, we have an election coming up, so we got to go back to war and send 30 million people to go invade the Empire. And you're like, they literally just said they're going to do it because they have an election coming up. Like 30 million people because of an election. I want
Yang
to
is
die.
Like, okay, we can have a little bit of peace now. Can I retire? No, you can't retire, and you got to go do this. And yeah, it's like, okay.
It's so brutal. You're like, oh my God. Because the worst part is, you know, this happens. You know that's happening.
No, and the worst part too is like Yang, like you could tell, like he has good intentions, and also he knows better, and they're just not listening to him. Like they're not listening to the guy who knows. It's like they're just doing all this stuff.
And it shows in the beginning of like an interesting something that's an interesting element that you don't really realize that much in retrospect is Yang just kind of accepts the incompetency around him. Like he can kind of predict how everything will go wrong, and I think he never really truly tries to fight it that hard. Like he will at some point, but he doesn't provide much pushback because he's kind of already resigned himself to knowing that things will go wrong, which is an interesting character trait for him that has ripple effects later down the line.
Yeah. Because like he's just, you know, he kind of knows, I guess, like, because he knows that, you know, history repeats itself, which is like a recurring theme, and kind of like how kind of people are, that it's kind of inevitable, but he just kind of rolls with it. And that's how he's able to pull off so many tricks.
And that's true, as Ang said, Truant let that shit happen to grab power instead of stopping it, even though he knew it would happen. Yeah. This guy.
He's another troll.
He's not incompetent. He's just so corrupt and manipulative that he has the knowledge of what will happen, but he's also not going to let something happen because he's like, this will work out for me. Rip.
Oh yeah, no. I didn't think he's incompetent.
No, I was
definitely. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, he's totally self-serving. Like just completely
wild.
Like, I always hated him. He always.
Hated him. Speaking of also hated, we also got introductions to the goat Andrew Fork.
Favorite scene when Bucock just gives him a freaking aneurysm, like puts him in his place, paralyzes his nerves.
He's like, he essentially just reads him the riot act, and this dude is so like such a loser that he had an aneurysm because someone told him that he sucks ass. Oh my God.
He could not handle it. And then before his what was it, the assassination attempt, he still got owned again. When he killed the joint, like the chief of staff. What was the guy that he killed that was like the head of Heineken or something?
Which guy?
He was only for that, he only showed up for that one moment. Like he came out of a car. His name is Kubersley or something. And Andrew Fork shot him, and that what's led to all like the riots.
Oh, that shit.
Yeah. But that guy like totally put him in his place, and then he just shot him.
That was so funny because one of the sidelines is lines of like words were said on site. It's like, what's the point of having security if anyone can walk up to him and shoot him? Like,
exactly.
What is the point?
It's just so much like, so watching the show and like watching through season 1, I actually didn't have like too much of a hard time. But again, I hadn't watched it like you had before. I had no like background, but I found it kind of like relaxing because it was kind of like it felt like a history book. So I just would like go like watch an episode, kind of like see what was going on. But I always found myself more invested in the Alliance side of the story, and that's mainly because of Yang. But you know, and I was kind of interested in his perspective and seeing what was going on. But also, I felt like it's not like the Empire was more stable, but Heinesen was always like a giant clusterfuck, like ready to like tear at the seams, and you were always like wondering what was gonna go like happen next. So, that's what made it more interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting because at the start of season 1, even though it was kind of like the first battle was kind of like a tie between Yang and Reinhardt, after they captured Ishulern, I'm going to say that wrong, Fortress, it was really interesting, first the tactics to get in and take the fortress, but it gave the Alliance that advantage for the first time. And so it's probably the first and only time we see them actually having the upper hand against the Empire. So it's really interesting that, you know, we really did see them at their best, and they squandered the fuck out of that for an election that, like, I don't even know how the election turned out because like 20 million people died. So I think they all got screwed over.
Yeah, like we never saw the Free Planets Alliance recover.
Yeah, they did not recover from that one.
No, it just was just sinking ship after that.
Yeah.
So.
It's interesting. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was gonna say, which side of the story were you more invested in?
I was also probably more invested in Yang with the Alliance, just because I felt like his story was interesting in the sense that as evident as Yang shows throughout the series, he doesn't really have much ambition. So it was kind of just the story of this guy who is, very intelligent, very, very skilled, very competent, suffering through the incompetence of others and being at the whims of fate. And that was what was kind of interesting, which is kind of seeing how he could sit around and predict how everything would turn out. And he could do enough to save his fleet, but he couldn't do enough to save the Alliance as a whole, or like, at least individual fleets, other fleets outside his own, or like, democracy back home. It was like he was so limited in his control, even though you could tell like this guy should have more power to call the shots. And so that was really interesting to me. Meanwhile, I think Reinhardt's kind of rise to power, it's a story that I've seen before, which doesn't take away that the interest in Reinhardt. I think he's still really interesting. But I think at least for that section, it was kind of like I was interested, but it was more of how was he going to do it, not so much what he was going to accomplish, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, because I felt like his trajectory was a little bit it was a little bit predictable. It was kind of sort of like it wasn't that it was bad like you're saying, it's just sort of like you really didn't know what was going to happen with what Yang was trying to do. But with Reinhardt, it was sort of like he was just playing the game like straight, like he's just going to keep like winning battles and just slowly rising up, getting more influence, and no one is truly challenging him on it. Like even the Kaiser was just like when they told him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I know. He's probably gonna overtake me. Fuck the Golden Dynasty. We shouldn't even exist anymore." And I was like okay.
I think at the beginning, Yang's journey was more interesting than Reinhardt's for at least part of it. But I do think I found the Empire a bit more interesting than the Alliance, just because we were starting
with that. Structurally, I think the Empire is more interesting, like kind of like how they work and trying to understand that, because Free Planets Alliance is not really, it's just kind of a hodgepodge of just stuff like going on.
And it was tough because I think, the Empire is so foreign to us. So there was a lot of kind of like pieces to put together. Whereas like the Alliance, we can just imagine it's like, okay, it's a non-functioning democracy. It's like, that looks a bit familiar. I can kind of fill in the pieces to that. But I think it was interesting seeing like kind of the small snippets of the Empire, where it's like one of my favorite early episodes is the one where it focuses on the woman who was the concubine of the Kaiser before Reinhardt's sister, who was getting really jealous of Reinhardt's sister. So she has that whole scheme to try and assassinate her. And it doesn't go, it goes wrong and it doesn't work. And so at the end, the Kaiser makes a very we see a very merciful ruling, and it's okay, you're going to drink the poison, and because the Kaiser cared about you, he'll attend your funeral. Like that was like a line, and I was like just dying of like, oh yeah, that's that was really nice of him.
That's
like he'll show up.
Yeah,
You can't confirm it, but he'll show up.
Yeah, you won't know, but take his word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, okay.
Empire. That was just so funny, and I think that was part of the beginning of possibly the most underappreciated aspect of Legend of the Galactic Heroes is how ridiculously funny it is. In almost any given episode, you'll hear some of the funniest dialogue ever in anime. Just like out of nowhere, out of pocket, funny lines from people, and like half the time it's not even expected. I don't know if you found it as funny, but I was
half the time it's not meant to be funny.
Sometimes it's not meant to be funny, but like I was like dying so many times because it's like either the theatrics or just like the personalities and how everyone knows each other so well, so they know how to jib at each other. Like so funny at like almost nonstop.
Give an example.
So like this is a bit later, but any conversation between Dusty, Popolo, I'm saying his name wrong. It's gonna keep happening.
Or whatever.
The orange-haired one who's
Poplon.
And Skunkov, Walter von Skunkov.
Yeah.
Skonenkopf. I should say that better as a German. Anytime they're having a conversation amongst themselves, I think it could be like one of the funniest conversations. Like everyone giving Dusty shit for being being celibate, and then him giving the other two shit for like hooking up with women nonstop. Like that's just like comedic gold nonstop.
It was because a lot of times they were just there, just shooting the shit. So it was always kind of funny. Actually, good. Here's a question. So, do you want to do this by like break it down by the seasons and kind of just?
I was thinking seasons.
Move ahead.
We could do seasons.
Okay. So, do you have anything else that you want to touch on specifically in season 1? Like, I guess. Episodes 1 to 26.
Few things of season 1. By comparison, there's not as much to talk about in season 1 since it's laying the groundwork for things later. But big things, I do really like the exploration of how, the Alliance stretching themselves too thin with the supply chain. Their supply lines are getting stretched too thin. Therefore, the planets that they are, freeing. I'm trying to think. There's a good word for it. It's like, they are like emancipating. Is that what we're saying? Liberating. Yeah. They're liberating the planets from the Empire. We get to see how easy it is to mess up those plans with very key strategic thinking, which is a big element for Reinhardt and Yang. It's like, okay, either kind of let themselves shoot themselves in the foot, or we'll attack key parts of their fleet and take them down and use that, to take them down. So it's like very interesting strategy that's very grounded and not very flashy. But I think the exploration of how the planets don't have enough food and then they turn on the Alliance who are hurting them, who were oppressing them, ends up being really interesting. I think that was like a really good way of showing how this war impacts the little guy. That was something that stood out to me. And of course, the first big major death of the series. Last chance for spoilers. Like, this is it. There's no going back. This is the big spoiler of season 1.
I do agree that was a good that they did show like how it did affect the little guy and how like they quickly turned on the soldiers and the one dude that like fell in love with the chick and was trying to do right by them. He was like, you know what? Fuck all of this. They both left and you never hear from them again.
I hope they're doing well. I hope that's a good sign. But I think it goes to show that the average guy does not care about what political system they live in. They just want food. They just want to survive. And that's what it reinforces. Like, they are loyal to whoever is going to help them get food and survive, which is important.
Yeah, exactly. And now the big death.
The big death. I knew going in that this guy would die. I didn't think it happened this soon. I was shocked.
I was.
No, How were you? You didn't know.
The first time I watched it, I was shocked. I thought he was like gonna be in it for the long haul. Like this dude's right hand man. Like you'd always see him in all the pictures, like the promotional stuff. Like you thought this dude was there forever.
Yeah, you thought he was there from the get go.
Is, but
So
I didn't think it was gonna happen the way it happened. It was just so quick.
I didn't think it would happen like that, and I didn't think it would happen then. I think it was wild that we can talk about one more thing after this because I'm seeing a good reference of it in chat. But yeah, I did not think Kirtiais, I'm saying his name wrong. How do you say his name?
Kirkiais?
Kirtiais?
Kirkiais? I don't know. I just said
Kirtiais.
I don't know the actual pronunciation, what it's supposed to be.
Kirtiais? Yeah. I need a German
Can someone just do the phonetics in chat?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So help me out. Thanks. Would be nothing without chat. Kirtiais was like, I did not see him going down that soon or like that, but it's also perfectly fitting for him to go down in that way. Like, you know,
sacrificing himself for his
for
friend.
Reinhardt. Oh my gosh, I did not see that coming. It was cool. I think it's cool that, you know, it wasn't actually the big like fucking cannon the dude brought in with the other guy's corpse to take him out. It is the like ring thing that got him, which is sad, but like, sad.
Yeah, that was like the sad part. It was like, damn, like he blocked the cannon from hitting the other two, and then the freaking ring got him like in the chest, and he was still okay, but then it got him in the neck, and then that was like a vital point, and then he just bled out, and then that was it. And it was just like, and then you could tell Reinhardt was just like first in like complete disbelief, and it was like, okay, that was a shame, but
okay, Kier. Yes.
Yeah, so Kier, Ki, Ice.
Kier, Ki, Ice. Okay.
So it's like beer with a K, so Kier, and then Ki, as in what Goku uses, Ki, and then Ice.
Kier, yes. Kirky Ice. I like Kirky Ice. Kirk Ice. Kier, yes.
It sounds like Corky Ice.
That if he didn't get murdered in the show, I would be murdered for my pronunciation. Rest in peace.
You are forgiven.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that was brutal.
No. I don't know. I wasn't like super attached to him. I think some people do really like his character. I thought he could have been a really great, you know, like ruler and like good, like really good character. He would have been really good for the universe, but I think that's why it was meant for him to die. You know, because you can't have that. Can't have nice things. But yeah, I was like surprised, and I wasn't like what kind of also like left me like shook, like unsure about it too, was just like I wasn't sure where Reinhardt's story was gonna go from there. Like I know they said what he was gonna do, but like I felt like, okay, he just accomplished mostly like many of his goals, like what he was really setting out to do. Like his, you know, he took out the nobles. That was a big goal. His sister's okay. He's risen up the ranks. He's pretty much on his way to gonna conquer the universe, most likely. But now he just lost his friend. So now it's like he just has this emptiness. So like where is he gonna go from here?
Yeah, it was really interesting to do that so early on as well, because I think, you know, as this is, I guess, a good transition to go back to one of the other major conflicts. You know, the Alliance has the whole, you know, our supply chains are ruined because we have 20 million people going to these planets. But the big conflict that we mentioned a bit earlier, the nuking of that planet, that name I forget.
I don't know. The Westerlands.
Geisberg?
Oh, that was the fortress.
Geisberg is the fortress. What's that planet?
Yeah, Westerland.
Westerlands. There we go. Yeah, I can say that word.
Nuked.
Yeah. You know, the nuking of Westerland, of course, was a plan by the other, the Lipstadt rebellion, but you know, Reinhardt had the opportunity to stop them from bombing this innocent planet and, you know, save 2 million lives. And Oberstein, another major character that's been introduced, was like, if you let them bomb this planet, 2 million lives are lost, but it'll turn everyone in the Empire against them. So we will end the war 3 months early and save like 10 million lives. So it starts implementing that idea of like utilitarianism, even at the expense of, you know, let's just say good morals or good feelings. And so he kind of tricks Reinhardt into acting too late and letting them bomb that planet, but they also get pictures of it. So they broadcast that through the Empire. And that rubs everyone at least in their immediate circle, kind of the wrong way, because they're like, hey, this isn't really the cause we signed up for. They're not overtly like that. They're just like, we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to give more power to the commoners and the lower nobles. They don't think that they're to blame for it, but it's kind of weird that they couldn't step in and save it. And that's an action that ends up having repercussions way later down the line, which is cool to see. But it starts the introduction of Oberstein as this like uncaring but very calculating person who is dedicated to the Lohengrin dynasty against all odds, against everything.
Yeah, and he's also like pretty much at the time, not after, but like he was supposed to be like the foil for Kircheis.
Yes.
And essentially like the dark side that like, he even says it himself that like pushes like Reinhardt to make the hard choices where Kircheis wouldn't do that. And that actually is what causes, because the one that's actually really rubbed the wrong way by it is Kircheis, and that causes like a strain between them right before he dies. Like they have like this rift. So I actually have like some theories of like, not theories, but like comments about that, but I guess later on, like, because Kircheis, basically his death like has ripples throughout the rest of the series. Like not like he changes anything, but he stays in people's minds, and he clearly has an effect on Reinhardt. He
stays in their heads rent free. So AA and chat asked, how long did it take you guys to get used to the old animation? Because it put my brother to sleep, so he watched the remake. I didn't have much of an adjustment to the old animation at all, and actually, I think it's kind of, I agree with this too. People need to stop thinking older animation is inherently boring or bad. I think I didn't have any issues with the older animation. I think it looked really good. I'm also, old and I'm used to that art style and cell animation, but it was kind of cool because my husband was like watching me watch the show, and he's like, I kind of miss when shows looked like this and had this character design and stuff. And I was like, you know what? That's cool. Good. I'm going to share this, that like,
everyone kind of like, in terms of character design, everyone kind of looked a bit more unique than how they do nowadays. Because when I was seeing the character designs for the new one, it just looked like a bunch of characters like I've seen like in like so many other anime. And whereas here, like they all looked kind of different.
I think one of the definite strengths of the series is, it might not have the most fluid or dynamic animation, but I think one thing that focuses really well on is like the facial expressions of characters. And that also goes with the character designs being so unique from each character to character. Like no two characters look the same, and they're also able to express, very subtle and like subtle details in between conversations or during conversations. So I think it works out well.
Yeah, I didn't have too much of a hard time like adjusting. Kind of just went through. It just gave me nostalgia for like old anime.
Yeah.
But I think like I did hear like one of the criticisms of it is like it's literally like essentially like a moving novel more than an anime.
Or a visual
novel.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, but it's like a visual novel more than an anime because they barely move. They have a ton of dialogue, and it's not fluid at all. They're all stiff, especially for the time period when like Dragon Ball and other stuff existed that clearly moved better. This was like 70s level like movement.
Well, even animation. I think even the 70s have some anime that move a bit better. So I think it. Yeah. I think it really 60s. Depends. But I think it really depends because they were very obviously not putting their eggs in the animation basket. They were putting it into the background art and character design basket of saying like, this dude is not going to move, but his face will show a lot of emotions.
Yeah. I didn't have an issue with that, but
same.
I saw that and I'm like, but I'm like so focused on the dialogue. And the story and everything else going on. I have enough time. Like they're at least doing something. They're talking all this stuff. So
I could kind of see, like, not to be a true enlightened centrist, but I could see the people who were really bothered by the visuals because it's not enough movement for them, and it can be presented sometimes in a very like dry, straightforward way. But at the same time, I can understand people having no issues with the visuals and also thinking it looks really good because the background art and the character designs do look great. And it, when they need to deliver some action sequences, I think they do a pretty good job. So I can see both sides of it. I don't think I would agree that the visuals ruin the series, but I also don't think I would agree that it's the best looking show of all time. But
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I
So.
lean more positive than critical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely like a lot of dynamic shows, but I came into this thinking like, all right, well, I'm gonna like sit back, read a history book, which this was what it felt like, and just sort of kind of go through everything, and it was nice.
Yeah, for sure.
It really did feel like reading a novel. So
yeah, visual novel type beat.
There you go.
Added to the visual novel 3x3.
Yeah. Okay, so that the only other, I guess, thing after his death, and kind of like it leaves Reinhardt in like a depressed state, and you know the Alliance is being the Alliance, is one thing is his sister. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but like her reaction to him, she just seemed cold.
Like, okay, I was glad you brought this up because I was gonna bring this up to you, where I was like, so, you know, Kirchias died, so she's just kind of like, okay, bye. Like,
yeah,
okay.
She's just like, okay, you just had the biggest loss of your life. Well, I'm out. I can't be around you. You're violent.
Good luck.
See ya. You know, she didn't even give reasons. She was like, I just gotta go. Sorry.
Yeah, well, her thing was kind of like, I can kind of vaguely see her reasons, because she feels guilty that she led them down this path for them to kind of save her, because they felt like they had to save her. So she feels kind of guilty, and I think that her perspective is when, you know, she got picked by the Empire, by the Kaiser, she's like, okay, I'm sacrificing myself for my brother to live his life. So to see that kind of sacrifice come back with the loss of, I think they implied that, you know, Kirchi, like, she was in love with Kirchias. I think they implied that.
Yeah, I got that sense, and I got the sense that he was obviously in love with her.
He was in love with her.
Sometimes it made me question how much of it he did do for Reinhardt and how much of it he actually did for his promise. Like,
I think it might be half. It is interesting to think about. I think it's half and half, but
because he didn't let on too much either. So it was, and he always harkened back to the promise, and that was his last thought in his brain. Hey, at least I fulfilled my promise.
Yeah, so. I feel like, I don't know if I feel kind of sad by that, because I do think his friendship with Reinhardt was, you know, genuine. But I wonder, just like, is it kind of sad that all of his major relationships felt like dedication to him for the sake of like, you know. Like dedication or obligation. I don't know. That's kind of something to think about. That's kind of sad. But
which kind of sucks, but it probably speaks of his nature of why like he was so good with people and you know, like would probably have been a good ruler.
Yeah, we can get to that in a bit too, because I think that touches on something with his character later on. But I think so. I think she had that vibe of, I am responsible for them going down this path and dying. So. But
I get that. And I just feel like, I guess they made that too subtle. Like, and I don't know, she still like could have been a little more supportive, not just like the minute that it happened, you know. I mean, I get that she's grieving too. But she's just like,
I agree.
Peace.
You know? I agree. I think they made hers. I think my criticism is that we don't get enough focus with her for that to be kind of like this nuanced character decision where we can understand how it's a shortcoming in her eyes, because we only kind of see like glimpses of her. Like we see more glimpses of her at the end, funny enough, than we do like in the middle of it. But I think we don't get truly enough focus and insight at the time to truly understand her decision making. So at the time, we're kind of like, bro, what the fuck? He lost his best friend. He's at war, like in a very stressful situation. He had an assassination attempt on his life, and you're kind of like, okay, it's time for me to go. Like it just feels like it. I don't know. I feel like it's so tough to wrap your head around.
Felt like more of a twisting of the knife, considering that like this dude made it like, and I get it. This is why she feels guilty, but like his life's mission, like literally he was doing all of this to, you know, he loves his sister. Like he was doing, like, if there's anyone he needed at that time, it was her to like lift him up. Even Oberstein was like, oh, go talk to your sister. You know, he needs some light, you know, to kind of help him out in this time. And so he did all of this, you know, for her. And then in that moment to just be like, okay, come on. But
I think it's supposed to be, in the grand scheme of things, and the wrong decision on her part. I don't think the series shies away from that, but I think it's tough from our perspective to truly understand why she made that decision.
Yeah, because they didn't like give us too much on her side either.
Yeah.
Didn't get too much of that perspective.
Yeah.
But that was the only comment on that. And then the only other thing I noticed is like right after that, where he gets his resolve to like, all right, I'm gonna conquer the universe. I got nothing else left. There's like, I wouldn't have known at the time, but on the rewatch, there is a foreshadowing of Ruenthal's. I don't know. How to pronounce this.
Ruenthal's. I think
of his rebellion.
Yeah.
Because Reinhardt is like, anyone that wants to come
at me, bro.
Come at me. And then Ruenthal's is like, you jest. And it's like,
I could never, but could I? Like,
could I? Well, I'm already in it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting at the end of season 1. I don't know if you felt like this too. I felt like it was prioritizing the events more so than the characters, because we had all these characters going on, and like I knew Ruenthal and Mittermeier were supposed to be important, but I didn't know anything about them. So by the end of season 1, I was like, okay, cool. We got all the events down. We know what happens. We rushed from point A to point like D or F, like whatever. And
yeah, there's a ton of characters that like sat in the background that you like they were there, but they didn't like, they didn't come into the fold till like way later.
Yeah, so I was like starting season 2, and I'm like, okay, now let's focus on the characters, because I don't know what's going on with half these guys.
Yeah. So season 1, solid, interesting enough. I had a few reservations, but I was like still willing to.
We're on board, right?
Yeah, mainly because of my boy Yang.
Yeah.
So
were you definitely a Yang gang from the day one?
Oh yeah.
Yang gang.
Yeah.
Yang gang.
It only intensified from there.
Yeah. Yang gang. Yeah.
Yang gang. Yeah, no, definitely I just liked like his whole like disposition and like everything interesting he had to say and all that stuff. But we'll get more into that later. But
we'll get into that later.
Season 2. Season 2 is interesting because I didn't know now, like, okay, what's the rest of the story? Reinhardt's just gonna conquer the universe and kind of like that, and then we're just gonna continue from there, and the alliance is just gonna slowly crumble and dwindle.
Yeah, we're like, these guys ain't fighting. The alliance is not thinking their way out of a paper bag. We are down bad.
So I don't know where to start with this part. So if you have anything that comes to mind about like this part of the story, you could bring it up. For me, one of the episodes that I remember that I like, kind of like as I was refreshing on it, the first episode that came to mind was, weirdly enough, like the Julian episode where he's going to Fazan, and it's literally a documentary episode. It's literally just a clip show. Not really a clip show, but like,
every time Julian is traveling, we know that we are sitting down for a documentary.
And literally my first thought when I remember on the initial watch is like, oh, okay, whatever, sure. Like this is going to be like probably boring. And I found it so interesting. And I was actually rewatching it like last night. I'm like, this was so interesting.
Yeah. I kind of, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, because what I like about that is it, like, the show has like such an expansive history that like goes way before the actual narrative of the show actually starts. And it goes into like how Rudolf von Goldenbaum came into power, but like it goes into all the reasons as to why that happened. And it's like talking about like stagnation and like really like society kind of fell into a decadence because of like peace, which caused stagnation. And instead of like humans and people like trying to solve like their immediate problems with like more of a long-term solution, they chose the short-term cure. Absolute dictatorship. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So they chose like a dictator, and then that's what like kind of led to like these like essentially Goldenbaum was like Rudolph was essentially Space Hitler. He was like,
Space
like
Hitler.
a parallel of Space Hitler. Like he's the true Hitler of the story. And it shows like if someone like Hitler had reigned supreme, we'd get like 500 years later, like really lazy nobles that aren't capable of any independent thought, because that was the whole issue, like that society, or what I found really interesting is like, they didn't want to engage in any independent thought. They wanted someone to just like, they wanted to pass the ball and just let someone do that thinking for them. And then someone like Rudolph who came in, and he sets a parallel to, initially he was like a Yang Wenli. He was like this kind of visionary like guy with all these ideas, and he wanted to like really like do all this reform, but he had like the ambition of like a Reinhardt.
Yes.
He actually had ambition, and then he got all this power, and he became this. So that's why everybody in the rest of the story is like, oh well, Yang's gonna be the next Rudolph, and it's like, no, he's not. He really doesn't care. It's like, no, he's gonna be the next Rudolph,
Yeah.
and so, and that like, in essence, that episode, like that backstory sets up like interesting framing for like the rest of the series and sort of like the next part of the story where like it focuses more on like Reinhard and what kind of ruler he's going to be and what the universe needs and the seedling of democracy and what's left and whatever. But I don't want to go too much further, but that's like one of the parts of like season 2 that I like remembered that I liked.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because there are a lot of like natural questions that arise for a series that's supposed to be set like in our universe, but way in the future. It's like, okay, what happened to Earth? Where is Earth? What is the role that Earth plays now that like we've conquered so many other parts of the galaxy? And I don't know if we get to it at this point.
I think it's later. I think that like when they actually tell you what happened to Earth, it's like later.
I think that's when they go to I think that's season 3. Terra. That they call it Terra, which is like another way of saying Earth.
Yeah.
So I think that's season 3 history lesson. But they start answering questions of like, how does the galaxy get to the point where it's like 2 different political systems at war with each other?
And that's like very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And I think there's this constant like repeating theme of like the phrase goes like time is a flat circle, where we're so way in the future, but history repeats itself so often that we're like experiencing so many things that we have experienced, but it's also like just a repeating cycle of people fighting for their government, getting so disengaged with their government that it leads someone to kind of conquer, and a dictatorship arises that abuses them because they were so negligent with their involvement in the government, and then break away, rebel against that, and that gives them something to fight for. So it's like rinse and repeat. And even
though like Yang is like a bit too modest and humble when he says this, like he really cites like the reason why he knows so much stuff is just because he studied history, and he kind of applies what he knows about history to kind of his thinking, and it reinforces that thought of like it's just repeating himself. People that don't inform themselves are just bound to do the same things, and kind of just
exactly. And I think you get a sense of that in like almost the real world applications in this series, because something that's kind of this has kind of been a point of like meme joking criticism is like, we're in year like 3900 and we got axe battles. And I think what's funny about that is that like technology has advanced to the point where they have all of these ridiculous like futuristic weapons and technology, but they're able to cancel each other out with the Zephyr particles. So it makes it so like you can't shoot their laser guns. So they have to bring an axe to like a gunfight. So it's kind of like a nice reminder, like even in the universe, of how they're like, we're going so far ahead, but at the end of the day, we're going to find ways to cancel each other out. And it just comes back to like brutal warfare.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I love the axe battles.
Yeah, no, those are great. They're like in spacesuits, but then the contrast of just fucking axes.
And they get brutal. Like, dude gets fucked up with these axes.
There actually is an episode later on.
Yeah.
Way later that really, we'll talk about it later, but showcases like the whole atrocity of war. Like, it really went ham on like showing like, no, this isn't fun.
Yeah, they're not just like shooting laser beams at each other and blowing up. Like, no, these guys they're not doing well. I know which one you're talking about too.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, once it started to get into like the ideology like of stuff and like really exploring that angle, like in addition to the plot, and like kind of really trying to give an answer to those like tough questions of like, okay, we're not just going to have like a new ruler ruling the galaxy and it's going to be the same thing. Like, what is actually right for the universe? And then it never gives a clear-cut answer. It just kind of encourages you to just kind of keep thinking about it. Like, I found that like really interesting. And really,
I think it's really cool to see. So that kind of, I'll bring that back up when we get to the end of season 2, because there's a few more like interesting tidbits along the way. But I think talk about like the most frustrating bullshit of all time is winning these ridiculous battles and then getting brought in front of a committee that thinks you're an anarchist and that tears you apart. Yang is a better man than me, because I would flip the fuck out. I would flip so much shit at these people and quit on the spot. I'd be like, let me out. I don't care.
That was like right at the beginning of season 2, or like
Yeah.
right like in the first few episodes. I'm like, come on, man.
Insult
He's
to
like,
injury.
he's like the hero of El Fasi. Like he literally took Iserloin Fortress. Like what else do you want?
Like I hate these people. But the
Like,
thing is, it's interesting to also see that our mystery third player, the secret president or the overt president of Fazan is pulling so many strings behind the scenes because Fazan is kind of like the independent third party planet that benefits from this war. So they're always pulling the strings to, tip the balance one way or the other and try and even the playing field for everyone. So they can get more power or money or both.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I always found it interesting. I also like that there was always like that third faction, like Fazan, just like pulling their own strings, doing their own shit. Like, okay, we're gonna come out on top because at the end of the day, it's about money.
Yes, exactly.
So I like that. I didn't like the fourth faction, but we'll get into them later.
Yeah, fuck the fourth faction. But I do like it because you see so many people doing so many obviously stupid things. And it's like, okay, why are they doing this? And it's like, okay, these guys in power in different factions are doing stupid things because these other smarter guys are pulling the strings and are doing it for their own benefit. And it's like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah. Especially when they're pulling a lot of the strings of the people in the Free Planets Alliance.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Not so free.
Yeah. In the chat, Dancing Mad mentioned, I didn't think Jessica Edwards would die so soon. So going back to season 1 real quick, what did you think about Jessica Edwards?
I thought she was a cool character from the get-go of, it seems like a natural trajectory of someone who had their fiance die in battle. Their best friend is constantly going to war, even though they know that like they don't want them to go to war. So I think her joining that or starting that anti-war faction makes a lot of sense. I think it's like a natural trajectory, and seeing the fate of that was like so brutal because I didn't think she was going to die either. I didn't even think she died in that scene, which was of course the attempted peaceful protest gone wrong. And I didn't think she even got killed. I thought she was just knocked out because I'm naive and I'm like, they didn't show that they didn't beat the big death. She just like died.
The stadium blows up. She's fine, right?
She has to survive. They didn't show the thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. In a show, if they don't show the body, chances are they're still alive.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Everyone else got like a moment. She didn't really fully get the moment. She just kind of got knocked out.
Her fiance got like a fucking like rock stabbed through him. He got the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So you knew he was dead.
Called out a moment.
But yeah, no, it sucked that like she kind of died real quick, and then that was sort of it.
That's awful. I feel bad for Yang because that was also interesting. I don't know if you saw the 2 movies ahead of time.
I did not.
Okay, no, so one of them is just a prequel movie for all this stuff, and there's this really great scene of her and Yang dancing, and it's like this dialogue, this like no dialogue scene. I'll find it for you, but essentially the whole relationship between the 3 of them is like, I think both Yang and Lap, they both had feelings for her. She was kind of like caught between them, but Yang essentially hesitated. He hesitated and she decided to go with Lap. And that's kind of been the foundation of like, they both kind of have this like sense of regret, but also they accept that that's just how things are. So it's very complicated.
Things played out, and I got a sense of that. Like obviously I didn't get to see the movie and probably did a much better job of it, but I got it through the flashbacks where they had like their episode together, like their second episode when they were like out and reminiscing. So I was like, that sucks, but I kind of see it matches with Yang's nature though. So.
Yeah, it matches his nature. And they do present. I do agree that the movie does the first 2 episodes better, so I would recommend that. But so you always get this really complicated, unresolved feelings, but they accepted everything. They're not going to make a move. They respect their friend too much. It's what's done is done.
Yeah.
Well, etc. So I think it was really sad seeing that happen, especially because Yang's whole thing is he does not want to be at war. He doesn't want anyone dragged into like conflicts like this. So seeing him just looking so depressed afterwards, like felt bad. That just hurt.
Yeah. A lot of people die in the show.
You could just say that after everything. You're like, yo, that was sad. Yeah, a lot of people die.
Yeah, a lot of people die in the show. People die when they're killed.
People die when they are killed.
I
think
I don't know, like she just died so quick, and I thought like they were setting her up for like like a bigger arc or something was gonna happen, but it was just like, no, it's just showing you how the Free Planets Alliance is just fucked. Like all
They just
kinds of
suck
fucked.
ass.
Yeah.
They just suck.
And that's a good transition to going back to season 2 and how like these guys are like freaking trying like the wrong guy, like Yang, over like some bullshit. And they're just keeping him there. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it
we
makes
know
no
why
sense.
they are, because the Fazan people want to try and take Ishaloran. They want the Empire to take Ishaloran fortress. So they want to get Yang away from there to give them a strategic advantage.
That's right.
So that's the smart reason. But no one else knows that. So they're like, okay,
So
fuck this
dumb.
shit. Fuck this shit.
A good example of that is at the end of what was it? Or maybe it was this season. What was the one where Admiral Greenhill, which is Frederica's dad?
That's in season 2.
That's in season 2. Okay.
This is all in season 2.
Yeah, where Arthur Lynch, the admiral that like
that guy.
That they turned, that he was like, haha, psych, you guys believed it. It's actually the Empire controlling all this shit. You guys are dumb.
Here's the documents. Here's the receipts.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all the same season. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah,
and Jessica dies in this season.
Season 1.
2.
No, 2. Right. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I'm getting like the dates mixed up. Okay.
No.
No. Muska Art says in the chat, the coup was season 1.
Was it season 1?
Yeah. Okay.
Damn.
Getting dates mixed up. Okay, so the coup was season 1, but then in season 2 they are trying Yang, like they bring him back, and you know they're doing it again.
Yeah, let's run it again. Yeah. And so that's going on season 2, and then like Frederica. Oh, so she died before Kirchias. I just, Kirchias dies and I forget everything. I'm just like, rip my boy, feel bad. Okay, so she died before him. That's a good reminder. The coup does happen in season 1. So I guess that makes sense. Okay, that's so cool because it's coming back to me now, because Reinhardt actually set up the coup because he knew they would be going through the Civil War. So he's like, I got to get the Alliance focusing on their own shit while I take care of this, which is so take smart.
Advantage of this. Yeah,
it all makes sense. Okay,
master tacticians.
But that's my goat.
It's so easy, like how throughout the show they could just literally make them do what they wanted, like puppets, like just kind of control them. Like, all right, have them, But it's because like the government and the society was already so volatile that it was just kind of easy to just
tip the scale,
a wrench in their plans.
That's wild.
But yeah, no, and I do like that you get more of the sense of this in season 2, that the show does set up like more of this like more gray area. Like there is truly no, well, there is later, but like there's truly no villain. Like Reinhardt's not completely in the right for like what he's doing. Neither is Yang by his own like admission. Like you don't know what the right, there's, everybody has a story, and also like there's
their own motives.
Yeah. And like they're all not, there's no right way, clearly, because some things might, like democracy didn't work. The autocracy from Rudolph didn't work. So,
and that also, I think the beginning of season 2, while Yang is going into this inquiry, we start to see the introduction of 2 of the big dogs, the big players, Mittermeier and Ruenthal. Like, people I knew would be a big deal, but up through season 1, I knew nothing about. So they start going into their backstory. They're kind of like 2 sides of the same coin. Mittermeier, respect all queens, loves women in like a respectful way. He's just like a stand-up guy. He's a commoner, the twin stars. I should have called him that. He, respects women, really, just a real wholesome dude who has his ideals and believes in them. And then you got Ruenthal, who hates women. He hates his mom. He hates that he's alive. He hates so many different.
That's why they get along. They
get along. They're 2 sides of the same coin. And we get to see with Ruenthal the direct consequence of the 500-year autocracy of Rudolph, where they have that genetic purity thing. So everyone, they do believe, I think, even though it's more relaxed in this time, you got that whole blonde hair, blue-eyed thing. And I guess they are so focused on genetic purity that they don't understand how genetics and mutations work. So they don't know that heterochromatia, I think I'm saying that right, is where like your eyes are two different colors. They don't understand that's a mutation and not a sign that your mom cheated on your dad with someone with brown eyes. They don't know that. So
God.
like, so they, you know, time is also a flat circle, but going backwards. So,
Yeah.
you know, you see the negative impact of that on his life and outlook, and how it does fundamentally represent a part of himself that resents existence and the nobility.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was in season 2, right? Yeah. So because we got to know more of him, and then also that's when Hildegard or Hilda started coming more into the fold, and she was kind of like noticing his ambitions and like was worried about what he was going to try to do, even though he like it wasn't on his radar yet. I don't know what he said, but
people got the vibes from him. I love Hilda. I think she's an non-toxic girl boss. You know, she has a good sense for the politics, and she's probably like, you know, if we break it down, she might be a top 3, top 4 smartest character in the series, which is really impressive.
Yeah,
what?
No, I think so too.
Yeah,
I think like she, in some aspects, she might be better than Reinhardt.
I agree, because she has a good, like, she has very good perspective. She's very insightful. She knows when she's not knowledgeable, as like later on, like he offers to let her command a fleet, and she's like, I've never served, like this will not be a good, you know, these guys will not want to follow me. I don't think I should command them. Like, good insight and perspective. So she's a queen. Yeah. I love her. I guess best girl. Yeah.
Let me double check. Best girl.
There's not many competitors, but I think she's best girl. Not many girls. But yeah, she's queen. I love her. And she's a great introduction to the cast. I think she has a great dynamic with Reinhardt. And she kind of serves as like, you know, she's never going to replace Kirtias, but she does a good job of bringing out the humanity in him.
Yeah.
I don't think I can say, I don't know if I'm a Keteros fan. Karen. She's really cute, but like, I don't think
she's somewhere like in my list. Like, I do like her as a character, but like in terms of like, if I'm comparing her to Hilda, clearly, you know, there's a stark, you know what? I like her because I feel like, I don't know if this is rude to say, but I feel like she's just like a precursor to Asuka.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say it. I was like, is she just the prototype to Asuka?
Yeah,
I feel like she's the Asuka.
After I finished the show, I went to fucking look it up, and like, she's not like actually like Asuka wasn't based off her, but I'm like, damn, but it feels so believable.
She feels like she is, at least design wise. The red hair, blue eye combo is very rare. Yeah. So,
but technically, I think this part, because she came in the 4th season, right? Like, she came really late. And I think that didn't air or come out till after Evangelion.
I don't know. Let me check.
Because it was a 10-year span. It was like 1988 to like 1998.
Yeah, let me check.
But whatever.
Doesn't tell me when these episodes came out.
I really like her dynamic with Julian, and even with her like dad and stuff. Like, she's cool.
Yeah. I think she's definitely good, but I don't think she's Legend of the Galactic Heroes good, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, man.
But she's really cute, and she has a great design. So I respect her as a waifu pick, but Hilda is my best girl. Hilda is queen.
Hilda good. Yeah. I do have more to say on Hilda, but I will
wait on that one
for later. Yeah. It's just because like I feel bad. You know what? I'll just say it now. I just feel bad for Hilda, like, because I don't know if Reinhardt ever truly loved her.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I know that she was cool with it. Like, she was just like, whatever. I'm still excited by the times, and like that I get to live in this life and do all these crazy shit. You know, she has her own like ambitions and she rolls with it. But I was like, I don't know, man. This dude like really thinking hard about Kirkiais.
Yeah, that's a funny thing, is that like, you know, in the story, it's like Kirkiais and Anna Rose, like they both have feelings for each other, but also everyone's always like Reinhardt and Kirkiais because they got the vibes. They got the dedication, the vibes, the promise. And that's why it's like, how much is he still thinking about him? But also, how much of he just like not able to connect with people because he's so set on his goals? That's my question.
That's probably true too.
Is he just so set on that? But I think, you know, as much as he's able to love a person, I think the top 2 for him are obviously his sister and Kirtiais. And then I think Hilda would be like the next tier down.
Everybody that's in the locket. Himself, his sister, and Kirkiais. Like, you're not in the locket, you don't make the fucking cut.
If you're not in the locket, you're dead to me. I love that.
It. Yeah. You're always gonna be 4th.
Yeah, you're always playing for
That
4.
actually, just because I've been like rereading Nana, it just reminds me of Takumi telling Hachi just like, hey, just so you know, you're always going to be second to work. So
I will spend 90% of my time on work and 10% on you. But
Yeah.
like,
as long as you're cool with it. So
yeah. But I think it's interesting because, like, I don't know if he had the capacity to love someone in the same way a normal person would, but I think that plays into the aspect that, like, he never feels like a true normal human being. He feels like a living legend for better or worse, for better and worse.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he has that, like,
I
sense.
I
Go ahead.
feel like essentially the two characters essentially became symbols. Like that's what they were.
Yeah.
I know they're the title of the show, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's
but
essentially what they were so devoted to the cause that
Yeah.
like, they kind of transcended that stuff. Also, did not know the J was silent in
I thought it was
actually
Julian.
yeah, I wasn't sure how
I
to
think it
pronounce
is Julian though. I don't
like,
remember
in
them
the
saying
Japanese,
Julian.
they go like it has like a Y sound, which makes sense, like Julian. But
Mhm.
if I'm pronouncing it in English, I think it would be Julian. But if we're going Spanish, I didn't even expect that. That would be Julian.
Julian. That sounds a bit more like, what are the Spanish opera channel? What's that called?
Which one?
What's the Spanish soap opera channel?
Oh, Univision?
Yeah, there's another. I feel like there's another.
Telemundo.
Telemundo. We're getting
Yeah,
Telemundo of the
Telemundo.
Galactic Heroes.
Hey, we
Julian.
could do a dub.
Oh my god, that would be so funny.
Julian.
Julian. That would be so funny.
See, that's Japanese.
He's
Julian.
a goat too, but we could get to that later.
Okay, so still on the season. I mean, there was a lot of battles this season.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things was the Battle of Vermilion, which was like the final, unless there's something before that you're thinking of, but like it was the last battle of the season essentially.
It's essentially the big battle between Yang and Reinhard, the Alliance versus the Empire. This is the big boss fight. This is it.
So, thoughts on this? So, did you think it was? I mean, the battle was great, but did you feel like it was a disappointing victory, or were you like unsatisfied by how it concluded?
Yeah, I think it was disappointing for everyone. No matter what side you're on, everyone is disappointed and you just want to die, as per usual with the Alliance government. Like
Reinhard was like, I just wanted to be killed by him.
Where
Yang
he's like,
I just wanted to kill him.
Well, funny people mentioned the Kuroko no Basket reference. Reinhard is looking at this like a sports anime. He wants to win on his own terms. He wants to win. He wants to win because he's the best. So he doesn't want to win because someone else forfeited. He wanted to beat Yang on even terms. But it's also funny because it's never really even terms. Yang is always the underdog. He never has enough people. And he is just going forward and like trying to take them all out.
Yeah. That's why he's the GOAT. But
that's why he's the GOAT. It's amazing.
I do respect that about Reinhardt, like wanting to just win on his own terms. So
yeah,
it's always cool. But that's actually a lot with a lot of the admirals on the Empire side. They're a lot very like, doing things with chivalry or, like that's why Oberstein never sits well with them. They're just always like,
they all hate Oberstein. And it's really funny. That's another line that would always be funny is anyone talking about Oberstein. It's like the funniest line of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a whole other bit of comedy in itself.
That's
just
so
that
funny.
like becoming a recurring thing.
Yeah.
I think you're right. That is really funny.
I got to bring up my favorite comments on that. But yeah, so it looks like I have this really great screenshot that was like really like exciting when I took it. And it's like, I think it's like Yang's flagship ship is right in front of Reinhardt's, and he's looking at it and he's like, holy shit, like this might be the end.
It was so crazy in that moment. You thought this was it.
I thought it was over. And then of course the Alliance fucking up did Yang in again, as usual. Yang can never win because the Alliance is so bad. I hate it here.
They're so bad. Like
I hate it.
So frustrating.
You feel so bad for him, and you're just like, oh my god.
They're the ones sabotaging him. Like it's just the worst. It's like,
and naturally, for people who have forgotten, I don't think anyone can forget. Yang is about to go in for the kill, and they get the notice. The Alliance has surrendered. Ceasefire. Like, you gotta stop because Mittermeier, Hilda, and Ruenthal have they approached the Heineken government, and they are like, they show up, they approach the government, and they're like, ceasefire or we will blow your ass up. And they're all of the leaders are sitting there in the bunker, and they're like, guys, we gotta keep fighting. And then of course, Truant, this dumbass, is like, nah, fuck it. And everyone hates him because they're like, you're about to use democracy to undermine democracy. And he's like, yes. Like, yes, I have. And it's like, he has the audacity to blame Yang taking out one of the planet's defenses when it was taken over by the coup. He has the audacity to say, well, Yang shouldn't have destroyed all of the whatever necklace defense system, otherwise we wouldn't be in this position. And you're like, I hate you, yeah. Die.
It's like the biggest, like, he's like the biggest bullshitter, like, just like pulling stuff out that like doesn't really matter. It's like, okay, come on,
yeah,
you're just throwing stuff out just to blame him for something. But like, and you think about like how good that battle was building up to be. Like, it was crazy because like, like Reinhardt was like almost killed, like he was almost getting killed. Then Mueller comes out of nowhere, like saves him, and then keeps transferring him to ships. I think it was that battle. And you're like, yo, how is he going to get him? Like, what's going on? Yeah. And then he finally closes in on him, and then that happens. But I do have to say, though, the one thing that came out of it, which was like an amazing and like really surreal moment, like of seeing them both of them coming into a room, boarding the ship, and just talking face to face.
That might be like my favorite part of the show. I'm not sure. There are kind of like 5 moments that are in the back of my head of like, this is like a true GOAT moment. Like, this is when we're like getting to the peak of peak. And I think the conversation between Yang and Reinhardt is like, I think that's episode, what, like 53? Is that 53?
Yeah, like 54?
54,
50,
yeah.
50, I don't know, one of those.
54, correct. You got it. That whole exchange, from like the looks on their faces, that's where like I think the character design and the attention to detail for the faces are able to convey such indescribable emotion, because you have Reinhardt giving this like very peculiar smile, almost like this like kind of a humble smile, and Yang is just like in disbelief of Reinhardt because he's such a larger than life figure that like he's kind of like, yo, this is the dude, like he's fucking here. And then they have probably one of the coolest conversations I've seen in anime where Yang has been thoroughly defeated by democracy because it's so incompetent, and he's talking to Reinhardt and
defeated him
to true incompetence. And Reinhardt is like, if it wasn't for democracy, you would have beaten me. Like, how can you still defend it? And there's this one really cool line that he says, essentially, that's like, I have to look up the exact quote, but it essentially says that, like, when the people kind of abandon the government and they push all of the problems and the success onto one person, and that's too much for that individual to bear.
Yeah.
It's a great line, and it's like really
coming back.
It really poignant. And Reinhardt can't really disagree on it because he's like fair enough. He's kind of like fair enough, and they both kind of agree to disagree, which they have the utmost respect for each other, but they were never going to agree on anything except, if you're going to go to war, be on the front lines. I think that's like what they agree with.
Yeah, I mean, I really did like that their conversation was like so civil, and you could clearly see they had so much like respect for each other. Yeah. And but like, I mean, it's like, unfortunately, like should have been like the first conversation out of many, and it could have been, but but
I would have loved that friendship.
Yeah. Like, it could have like led to more conversations, and even though like they wouldn't have agreed, because I feel like in Reinhardt's mind, it's like, oh, okay, that's a lot for one person to handle, but that person's not me.
Yeah, so but they're not built like me. I'm built different. Like, yeah,
that other person has that problem, not me. But but I feel like later on, I think he sort of started to get it. But but yeah, that was like the pinnacle of that season. And here is like where I still was sort of like, okay, we've reached this point in the show. Reinhardt is like about to unify the rest of the galaxy. Democracy's kind of dying. Yang's gonna go do his own stuff, own thing, or retire.
What did you think of his proposal to Frederica?
Oh, I thought it was amazing.
That's so cute. I
thought
them.
it was adorable. It was just like the best thing ever. I was like, because I didn't think he'd actually go through with it. I was like, oh, hey, they're actually,
I was afraid that he still had too many like feelings for Jessica, or he was too like, kicking his feet.
Yeah, because I didn't know if he saw her that way. Because again, like you said, feelings for Jessica, he was kind of focused on everything else. She made it seem like it was more of just like a crush on the sidelines that she was never gonna reveal until. Didn't like someone encourage her to do it?
Yeah, I forget who. I think it was who's the one guy who's like their advisor. I forget.
I
forget the name, but he's one of the bros.
Yeah. Anyways, either way, I was like so happy for them, and like now they had peace, and I was just like happy for the whole like vibe that they had, and then it was great, and then that's part of what broke me later on, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, so they were cute, and Yang finally gets his vacation under house arrest, but he gets his vacation.
Yeah, and where she like feeds him, I think.
Yeah, kind of, but she's not good at cooking apparently. So.
Oh, that's right. That was funny. That was a good dynamic.
She's a goat. I love her.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, so I guess that's the end of season 2. Democracy kind of done, but we find out that the alliance is kind of like they're under like ceasefire, and they're being like overseen by a I don't think it was
actually full disclosure, Frederica was actually my favorite female character up until this point. I think I realized. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that makes sense.
Because I really liked her dynamic with Yang, and I really liked like she always came up and she's like, "Hey, here's a coffee with the brandy in it."
Oh, that was great. I think this is not proven, but circumstantial evidence I think proves it. I think that Frederica and Yang's dynamic and relationship is like the blueprint for Roy and Riza in Fullmetal Alchemist. And my circumstantial evidence that proves it is that the Legend of the Galactic Heroes author also wrote that series on like Arsland. I forget the full name. You probably heard of it.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. I haven't
watched it. And that's only a book that I think it only exists as a book, but the Fullmetal Alchemist mangaka did the manga adaptation of that story. So she knows of his work, and they line up too well. The background stories hit too much. I think they're the blueprint. No one has confirmed that, but I'm headcanoning that.
Yeah. Well, you're getting some support in the chat for that headcanon, so might be true.
I think it's got the vibes.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good theory.
That's my thing.
I can actually see it. I like the dynamic. So
it's that same kind of like. There's a lot
like respectful, sort of admires him for like kind of his like respect, admiration mixed in with like I don't know, a sense of loyalty, and also like a developing like crush. But then they're like probably shouldn't say it, and then it's just like kind of there. So yeah,
I can see it. I will headcanon it. So I'm saying that. But yeah, so I guess that's the end of season 2. Yeah, and at this point, how were you feeling? Were you like, I really like the show?
I was really into it. I was into the whole Easer Lone like dynamic with all the bros and everybody.
Squad.
And, like, it was just super fun. Sure they didn't win. It really sucked. And now like some people were kind of like ready to like bounce from the ship, but it was still all good. And I still really like Yang, so I like the
Yang.
We're gonna at least get some peace now, and it was good. I like that, and I like some of the admirals in the Empire, and kind of curious to see where that goes. But I was good with the show. Just it was more of like still didn't know where it was going next, but yeah.
Because at that point we're like, okay, we still have like over 50 episodes to go. What's going on?
You clearly know something's got to go down.
Something's got to go.
And also, I guess like the other part of me was just like, well, I'll say it later, but how did you feel like now, like at this point in the show?
So I had seen the conversation between Yang and Reinhard like actually years ago. Like I saw the clip out of context, and that's part of what made me so interested in starting the series. So I was very excited to get to that clip that I had seen many years ago and see the context of it. I thought it happened much later on, just like I thought most things happened much later on. And I thought that was just like a really perfect scene. I think, Yang was always going to be a favorite, but I think that moment cemented him as like an all-time favorite. Like in the face of overwhelming disappointment and incompetence from democracy, to still defend democracy is like such a great way of showing him sticking to his ideals and his true beliefs in like the coolest way ever. It was a really cool way of saying like democracy has systematically failed, but I still believe in the system and spirit of democracy. And I think that was really cool.
Wait, so which scene was this again? Sorry.
This is the conversation with him and Reinhard.
Oh, okay.
That conversation is just like,
yeah, peak.
Woo.
Yeah.
Woo.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that I think Yang's commitment to his ideals is what, like, it's like, how could you not respect him and like him, like, for, like just sticking with it. And it's like, and he kind of like knew that it could work. It's just like, people just weren't doing the right thing. So
yeah, Yang gang.
Like, I guess the greatest parts of this, when it's just been, because he was so consistent all along, and even from the beginning when Shenkov like joined and he asked him like, so why are you doing this? And he just was like, well, I just want to retire, and like he never wanted to grab onto power. And even in the moments, even later on, which is I think in this third season, that's a whole conversation about like, this is the perfect time, and this is a good transition, for you to like seize power, make your own government, do your own thing. And he's still adamant about like, no, like that's just goes against, the whole point of what I'm trying to do and like what I believe in. And he just won't do it. And it's so much more advantageous for him to do it, but still sticks to his guns.
I really like Shkonikov. I really liked his character. I mean, from the get-go, he's the badass who makes shit happen. I mean, he's the guy with the axe going in and like fucking shit up. And he's won so many ridiculous fights. So like, he's a true badass, but I always respect him for being that kind of like very understandable, reasonable voice of reason of like, Yang, I know you have these ideals that mean a lot to you, but like you sticking to your ideals is so it's not advantageous for everyone. It's not even advantageous for the ideals you say you believe in. It's like, it's kind of like saying like, he's kind of that voice of reality of like, you are going to impact a lot of people negatively by sticking to your ideals. And then Yang always does it. And I think he's definitely one of the best characters in the show, definitely underappreciated. And I think that he's like, it's good that we always have that. It's good that we have people that don't always agree with Yang. And actually, a lot of people disagree with Yang on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But
like,
it's
you're
cool
a very
to see
eccentric guy, but
Yeah. It's cool to have that sense of like a reminder that like you're sticking to your ideals, but this will hurt everyone by you not bucking the system.
No, and coming from him, it really means a lot too. Because it's just like,
because he's seen both sides.
This is like a dude that like really sticks to his guns and what he believes in. Like you could tell that from the first moment he's introduced, when like, I don't know, he throws the champagne on that guy that like is
he was sticking up for that guy being an asshole, and he's like, fuck off. But and he was kind of like, he came over to Yang's side because when they asked like, oh, what are you doing this for? Like, world peace essentially, and Yang's like, well, there's never been like peace longer than like 20 years. So I'm just going to shoot for that. And he's like, okay, so this is a realistic, like normal dude.
Yeah. So, but pretty much, so a lot of love for Shenkov. Great character, actually, gets it done. I will say it now. Should I say it? Yeah, fuck it. He has like the best death in like the whole fucking show.
he like goes out like a boss. I don't know. That's an interesting tier list. He was the best death.
You know what? I'm just gonna go into now. I couldn't even be sad. I was just like, I want to be sad. I don't want to see him go, but he just went out like a fucking boss. Like,
I was sad because because at that point I'm like, yo, everyone's dropping like flies. I don't like this.
No,
but he did have a bad
sad, but like he like kept like to his word, and he kept his dignity. So I don't know.
I'm gonna disagree on best death, but we're gonna get there. You'll find out.
Okay, I won't say best death, but one.
You're saying most badass, but I also slightly disagree. We'll see. I like it. you are correct, but I have my thoughts on someone else's.
Well, no, I knew I was like, I wasn't too sure if like it was the best death, but I still consider it like
the best,
one of the best deaths or baddest deaths.
Okay, this is like fuck the character ranking. Let's do the death ranking. That's the what we're really here for.
Bro,
that's
there's just so many deaths. We should just have a death ranking.
death.
Okay. But
anyway,
it with
our season breakdown.
Yeah.
Speaking of death of the Alliance into season 3.
I'm just gonna get into season 3. I don't remember much. I just remember season 3 broke me. Okay.
Because you're too busy crying.
Yeah, man. Season 3 was hard.
Season 3 is really hard, and I knew that season 3 would be a lot of big dick energy across the board, from like epic, crying, like everything. Because I'm gonna be a bit of a big meanie. I didn't really like the first 2 OPs of like season 1 opening and season 2 opening. I wasn't too big on it. Then we get to season 3's opening, and I'm like, yo, we got a good opening. We're in for some shit. Like, we're in for some like good stuff. And that's like now become one of my favorite openings. Like, just Reinhard walking across the galaxy, and he's walking past Yang in the last shot, and they do the like look behind thing. That's like,
I love the visuals for that opening. And I was like reading into that too. I was like, oh shit, does that mean
damn,
Yang's going further away?
I'm like, no. I do not like OP4. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, we have that on the docket. Trust me. It's on there.
And he's just like walking past, and it's a great opening.
I mean, I never was big on the OPs. I mean, like I know I'm like a full-time OP skipper, but like the first one was all right. I respect it. The second one was okay, but the visuals though, like at least for that third one, good stuff. I think the second one had good visuals too, right?
I think it was decent. Yeah, it was decent. I just didn't like the song, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever liked the music. I don't remember the song for the third OP though.
Third OP is pretty epic. It sounds almost like an anthem, like
yeah,
national anthem kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, but I definitely like the visuals. So
yeah, the third opening definitely the best for me. I'm not sure which my favorite ending is, because ending 1 and ending 3 are both equally devastating. So we can get to that later. But yeah, so we start off with Yang can't catch a break. He is now like, they think that he I guess we should end on this, because this is actually an important character we haven't mentioned. But at the end of season 2, he essentially told Admiral Merkatz, like, you guys go off and kind of like, we'll pretend you guys have died in action, and you guys kind of form the future resistance now. And so the government thinks that he is responsible for that, which he is, but they don't have evidence. So they're just professional haters.
Yeah, they're just kind of blaming it on him, because it's always Yang. It's like, no, it's
always
Merkatz.
Yang.
It's Merkatz,
Yeah, and
Yang.
it's funny to see, because it's like, the imperial like governor is like, yeah, fuck Yang, and then Yang's old government is like, we need to survive, so also fuck Yang. And so he really can't catch a break. Yeah,
fuck Yang, because I think Oberstein manipulated whoever to blame Yang, and then for that.
I don't think Oberstein. I don't know if Oberstein.
I heard Oberstein manipulated one of his admirals or whatever, Lennenkampf, who was stationed on like, I think I think
he let Lennenkampf do it, but I don't think he planted that seed in his mind.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think he just let him do it and didn't stop it, which could essentially be the same, but he was just like, I think Oberstein would have been okay with imprisoning Yang.
Yeah.
And so he let the other guy do it.
Yeah. But the point is, they always blame Yang, and it's like,
they always blame Yang.
Can't catch a break, and then he doesn't like fight them on it. He kind of just takes it. So it's like, it makes it tougher, because it's like.
But this time they want him to die, and he's like, fuck that. I'm not dying for you guys.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And then at least smartly, he's like, okay, my life is a little bit more worth.
He's like, I was never planned. He's like, it's admirable to be self-sacrificial. And it's like, I never claimed to be self-sacrificial. Like, fuck that.
I like democracy, but you know.
Yeah.
Gotta look out for number one.
So they're gonna try and kill him. And we got the Rosenritzers going full Akira on the streets. They're taking down everyone. I got Skonkopf like on top of like a fucking tank with like a bazooka going after the president to hold him hostage. And then we got Yang almost gets shot, and Frederica takes the shooter out like a true boss.
It was great.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Couple
like
goals.
That gun training paid off. It's like, shh.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was awesome. And so yeah, essentially they take people hostage so Yang can escape. And then Reinhardt is back, and Reinhardt is back home, and he's getting like weirdly restless because the war is over, and he's kind of like, okay, now what do I do? Like, he's kind of getting restless and weird, and he doesn't really know what to do because he's only ever been at war or fought for something. So he's getting kind of weird, but he also doesn't want to blame Yang for stuff because he's like, I respect Yang. You guys are all being dumbasses. So he doesn't think it's fair. But then essentially he has enough reason to kind of go to war eventually. So he's like, we're back on it.
Go back to war. There's enough ammo. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Even though like Yang's not the one fighting him, it's Bukog. That's because the Alliance sent him. I know.
Yeah. So Yang escapes, defects from the Alliance and everyone. So he's just like, his own state. So then it's like,
which I think is a good, healthy move for Yang. Like this Alliance Yang thing, it just wasn't healthy. It was
not working out.
Toxic relationship. It was very one-sided. He's like, you know what? I got to do me. I got to separate myself, and it was good. It was a good move.
Yeah, and also this is where we get the first, not real first, but the major bullshit of the terrorists, because they try to assassinate Reinhardt. Terrorists, of course, are everyone's favorite cult from Earth who believe that, power should return to the Earth. And so they go around and they try and kill a bunch of people, and they're in like annoying cloaks and shit.
It pretty much sounds like we're just saying terrorists.
It's got to be a wordplay. It is got to be a wordplay. They are terrorists who are terrorists.
But yeah, then that was like the first of how many attempts on Reinhardt's life after that? Like I think 4 to 5.
I think
in the series.
I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot, but they tried to do it through Hilda's cousin, and
what's his face?
That dude.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's like when Reinhardt started being kind of like, well, he starts having this really like badass kind of sense, like if this is as much as my life is allotted for me, then so be it. But like, they kind of like fuck y'all.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of starts. I don't know. This is a question. Do you think Reinhardt ever looked out for his legacy or just his own accomplishments as an individual?
Like legacy as in like what came after him?
The Lohengrin like dynasty.
Like he was looking for the long term. I think he was always looking more towards his accomplishments and what he could do with his own power. Because he was just looking more at the immediate. And he was looking probably. He didn't think he was going to go so soon. He was probably looking to be around for a long time.
Yeah, because he definitely is interested in like changing the way the government works. But I never got the same impression that he cared about like the future after he died.
Yeah, because my evidence for that is really like the last few episodes, but I don't know if we want to get into that yet. Because I know like he does mention like his legacy towards the end, but there's reasons for me to believe though it's like not as important to him. He's like, he sets the foundation, but he's like, whatever. Like, I did what I did. It's the next person has to prove themselves worthy enough to be able to run with it, which is kind of his attitude, like all along. It's like, hey, whoever wants to challenge me, take it.
Come at me. Yeah.
Come at me.
Bitch. Yeah. So then he's kind of like, okay. In this part, he gets kind of restless, and then he's like, okay, no, I do actually have to unify the government. The Alliance are too stupid for their own sakes. And something I always appreciate about Reinhardt is he never respects people who have very faulty ideals or morals or who turn on their own people. Like, he doesn't respect people betraying whoever to serve him. So he doesn't respect the Alliance government turning on Yang, the only person he considers like close to being an equal in terms of prowess. Like, he doesn't respect them turning on him. He's like on them, like them betraying Yang. He's like, I don't respect this, and it's too incompetent, so they got to stop. And I love that.
Yeah, I mean, he has made very few exceptions on that, but it depends if there was like a logical reason. I'm only thinking of Oberstein. Like Oberstein technically like left in disgrace, came back, but Oberstein, he had a good reason that he couldn't refute. It was like, okay.
Oberstein and Fahrenheit, they were both people who could like also offer him like they also offered him like a lot of they had a lot of they brought a lot to the table.
Yeah. What else happened in season 3 minus
So I guess
the big stuff?
it's all the sense of
Sorry if it's like blurry to me, guys.
It's a bit blurry to
I
me
refreshed
too.
on parts, so.
Yeah, so this is essentially the breakdown of like the alliance. They're kind of like killing each other. All the leaders are killing each other because they're like, oh, like they're not sure what to do. But essentially, Admiral Bukak, our favorite MVP goat, elderly leader goat, he comes out of retirement for one last battle, and you get the sense that like he knows it's the end. And there's this really sad shot of like his wife bringing him his uniform, and like you just know this is the end. And it's like it's really sad, but so Admiral Bukak goes, and they have this is where the narrator actually the narrator is generally good, but the narrator drops this really cold line. It's like this is the last time the Admiral fleet took off, and you're like chills. Chills.
It hurts. And it just sucks because it was like so inevitable. Like you knew this guy did not have a chance at all. Like they were just like, he's good, he's formidable in his own right, but at this point, like they knew they were just sending him to his own death, and like the Alliance could not do anything else, and it was just kind of sad.
And I like that he wouldn't take anyone under the age of 30. He's kind of like, this is our mess, it's our turn to clean it up. I thought that was really cool. And I think that last battle that he had was really cool. It was in like this asteroid belt, and they had a lot of interesting like strategic advantages of the spacing and everything. Like the tactics of that was really cool.
He put up a really good fight.
And it leads to, he loses, and it leads to the toast to democracy, which is also one of the best moments in the series for me. I reviewed this yesterday. I think I have the quote down a bit. So he's like, goes on screen with Reinhardt, and he's like, you're really impressive. I can't serve you though, because, I'm an old man. And also, democracy is about like being a good friend and making good friends, not having good masters or being a good servant. And I'd rather be a good friend than a good servant. And then he toasted democracy, and then they get hit. And there's this really cool scene with Reinhardt where he's like doing the necklace thing, wherever he's kind of feeling like conflicted or like thinking of Kyrgyz. And it's
second half of the show. He's like always feeling the locket.
Always with the necklace.
Yeah, and if you're not in the locket, you're not.
Not in the locket, you're not in his life. And it's like really touching. And at first I thought it was just like, oh yeah, he misses Kyrgyz, his like reminder of friendship. And I went way back in my screenshots, and back in season 1, there's this conversation between Kyrgyz and Reinhardt where he's like, if only we could be friends with Yang. And I was like, damn, no friendship allowed in the Empire.
Nope.
No.
Only servants.
Only servants. And that comes back later too. But so that fight is very epic. Loved it.
Yeah. That was a good fight. That was good.
That's one of my favorite moments.
I forgot the toast, but the toast was pretty epic too. Like a lot of people went out like bosses in the show. I forgot.
Yeah, that's one of the best bosses. But I mean, best
boss deaths.
Boss deaths. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty badass. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got to do the death ranking later.
We will do the death ranking.
It sounds so morbid. The death ranking.
The death ranking. And then of course we get the fight with Yang and Reinhardt again.
Yeah, part 2. Although that concluded in like a sort of retreat / stalemate. Right?
Yeah,
like that was
because Reinhardt gets sick and passes out, and then Yang's people are depleted, so they can't really fight back. And then Reinhardt has a dream of Kyrgyz who's like engage in peace talks with Yang. So
actually, okay, so let's pause here and like talk about that. So because I feel like now we're in the 3rd season, it's pretty much going to carry to the 4th. How did you feel about the space cancer? I know it's not space cancer, but like just
it's
Reinhardt
the old-fashioned Japanese flu. It's the Japanese flu. He was in the rain.
Space flu.
Yeah. I think it was kind of I think it worked as the idea of like they constantly say that it felt like his body was too weak for his own spirit and ambitions. And I think it kind of works with what Yang was saying in the end of season 2, where he's like, it's too much responsibility for one person. And when you think about it, it's like, okay, well, why did the other dictators not have space cancer? And it's like, that's because Reinhard was responsible for the entire galaxy. He wasn't just responsible for his half. He was responsible for everything. So I could see from a more literal standpoint, it is just like overwork, exhaustion, like anything that he had overlooked in his childhood all culminated, and like this illness that was untreated at this point. But symbolically, I think it's supposed to be like he had so much responsibility, so much power, and his body couldn't handle it because he had overworked himself to death.
Other theory.
Space
no,
cancer.
I agree with that. That's actually more plausible than what I'm about to say. Because I was reading that, like,
Space cancer.
Yeah, space cancer. I felt like I read that technically this was like triggered after Kirkiais died, and he was so like torn apart by like his other half dying that all that was left was just like half of himself, just a vestige, you know. So he couldn't handle it. So that's why he was slowly started dying. You know, he needed Kirkiais as his right hand to help take on this burden. And now they didn't have him anymore. It's like slowly killing him. So
and it kind of makes sense. I mean, I think it makes sense. They talk about it as like an autoimmune disease or something getting to him. I could see that too. I think there's so many different like overwork type of related illnesses that could be plausible for why he started getting so sick. But I also do think it's the combination of like symbolically he's taking on so much responsibility, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And Kirtiais was that human like rock that kept him sane. And without that, it's like, you know, he has no good way of processing anything.
Because it is true though. Like I think also after Kirkiais died, he was dealing with this giant like void, you know, which didn't go away. He was just trying to fill it up with like a good rival, battles, the thrill. And then once war was over, you know, he still had that void, like pretty much till the end of the show. You know, I mean, he had the sickness still he was dealing with, but he had like that lack of the passion. So
so he starts getting the space cancer, the sad.
And it's like, you know, they so young, shines bright, and then, you know,
shines. And then
so season 3, back to season 3. So I'm just gonna get to it. The magician doesn't come back.
It's the worst.
Dude, I read that title and I was just like, no.
So you had no idea that Yang died. Unfortunately, I knew Yang was going to die.
Okay, I did not know. I think I had an inkling. I might have. I don't know. I'm going to say I didn't know. I don't think I did.
There was a lot of foreshadowing in this season of Yang almost meeting his end. Yeah.
So that's the thing. So for so long, I was just so thankful, like with all the battles and all that stuff, that Yang still hadn't fucking died. So when he like proposed to, got married to Frederica, was living his best life. They're all living in peace. Everything was good, but there's always this like sense of foreboding, like this dread, like, okay, he's going to go to his next battle. He's still alive. We're all good. Everything's all good. So, and again, Reinhard passes out. Battle ends. It's all good. Yang lives. It's all great. And then he dies on the most unexpected, just like trip by like, thankfully it wasn't like freaking Andrew Fork that killed him.
If Andrew Fork killed him, I would have flipped my shit. I was going to be, because they started hinting it. I'm like, no, if it's Andrew Fork, I'm like giving it a 1 out of 10. I don't give a shit. That's like, not him.
That would have been the worst. So thankfully the show is self-aware enough to just take him out real quick and just have it be something else. But even with like, even if I had known a little bit, I just did not expect it to be like that. It was so brutal. Just the way, like, because he was so close to making it out. And
it's also sad because like throughout the series, he talks about how terrorism does not change the course of history. It only like pauses it or like prevents progress. It's never going to do that much. So it's also sad because he denounced it so much that to see terrorists be the cause of his death is both fitting and tragic. And I'm like, I'm glad it makes sense he didn't die in battle, but I still feel sad that he died from these jackasses, and it makes me sad.
Yeah. I heard a take like this once. Like, I feel like terrorism is sort of like the antithesis to progress. It's sort of like conservatism, like radical, like conserving or preserving or bringing back to like, which is just, you know, commentary on religion itself, like just radical, like fundamentalism and like bringing things back to how they were versus letting things progress. And that's why, like, you know, it's kind of not good either. So, yeah. So kind of sucks.
That was tragic.
Honestly, what is there on Earth for them to go back to? Like, there's like nothing there. Why are they gonna worship it?
Oh, I hate them. Fuck Earth. But that was devastating. I knew it would happen, and it was still devastating.
I didn't know how to. I actually think I took a break.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have taken a break since then.
In my like only like my 3 weeks of having watched the whole show, I think I took a break. I don't think I could. I was able to continue.
I was just you know what gets me always with deaths. So like I'm weird, and I don't often cry to like character deaths on their own. For me, what always gets me is seeing other people react to their death. That will always get me. Does that happen with you too, or are you just like the death itself?
No, I don't know. I think it depends. I mean, I've become a lot further removed from like, I guess, fictional death. So maybe, but like, because now I'm just like, oh, well, you know, they died. But I don't know, man. Yang's death, like, legit, like, ruined me.
Well, it hurt me. But then it's like the next episode, Julian being the one find.
No, I'm sorry. I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about like watching like reactors like react to the episode.
No, I don't care about. I don't care about other people.
Confused. No.
Yeah, so I should specify.
Yes. So what made it worse? So Yang's death, broke me, and like the scene, it was impactful, it was like crazy. But what made it worse was having to deal with Julian and Frederica having just gotten married to him, and then the whole thing about he never came back. Like that's it. They found his body. It was just, that just made it worse.
I'm not sure if it was in this episode or later on, but it's like Frederica starts off really calm, and then she describes this like idealized future of like him being a grandfather and just like sitting in a rocking chair and his grandkids finding him one day. And that's when I lost my shit. I was like, it's like.
No, and even worse when, well, no, that was pretty bad. But like leading up to that, they had the new ending song where it showed them all at like this picnic or like having this great time, like, and then that like never happens. And like Yang is there.
I thought it was supposed to be something that did happen, but it's Julian looking back on good times after his death.
Right.
I want to believe that. I want to believe mine over yours because it makes me more sad.
Yeah, because there was like, I think the episodes before that were called like After the Festival Ends, or the episode behind that. So it made me think of the ending, you know, song. Because like they're all together and like happy times. But either way, that was still ominous foreshadowing of like what's to come. So
and then they played the first ending. And the first ending is like Yang and Julian like walking, and they see like all of the Alliance crew like kind of passing by them. And at the end, it's like Julian by himself, and it's like just him looking up at Reinhardt. And I always loved the framing of the Alliance side as kind of like Julian with Yang as like his mentor. But then at some point in all of the endings, Yang leaves Julian, another foreshadowing of what will happen. And we're always kind of left with just like Julian taking in all this information and wisdom from everyone around him. And I always loved just like how that was subtly presented as like Julian was learning history from everyone. And I love that.
Yeah, no, that's like the element that I did enjoy of that dynamic of having Julian on board and being like, and then Yang dying. Like, I'm not happy at all that Yang died. If he never died, I've been cool with that. But I did like that passing of the torch aspect, that Julian was just going to be inheriting everything. Like, he might not be as great of a tactician as Yang, but like that's not the point. He's like getting all the bits and pieces. Like, he has strengths that Yang didn't have, and he's getting all these bits and pieces and like to serve the next generation essentially. So
pass down his legacy.
Yeah, and always again in the visuals with the ED and some of the other visuals, like showing him like kind of Yang going on ahead, and then him just kind of like carrying on his steed was always like really cool. So
That
Yeah.
that just
Can we
hurt.
end the pod here? Like, there's just
Yeah, we're done.
Like, that's it.
The podcast does not return.
Yeah.
And then I love possibly one of the best screenshots afterwards is when Reinhardt finds out and he said, "Is it possible? Is it like how is it possible to disappoint me this much?" And I was like, yeah, that's kind of a mood. Because, of course, Reinhardt wanted to defeat him. And finding out he was taken out by these randos is like the worst. But also he knows that he doesn't deserve to die to such like assholes.
Yeah. It's like out of all the battles like that he couldn't take him out, this guy was practically invincible, could make the impossible possible, just gets killed randomly.
Yeah.
That just sucks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need a moment.
You're gonna need a moment to collect yourself.
I had enough moments. I had a year.
Yeah.
What is because then right after that is like the next 2 episodes are like morning, and then it's just a season finale, and then that's kind of
I think we get the transition where I'm trying to think. When I see Ruenthal. Yeah, so also in the background of this, we get a lot more with Ruenthal. Of course, top 1 misogynist of all time. He is top 1. He is always kind of torn, I think, between trying to have like honorable goals of like, his friendship with Mittermeier, serving Reinhardt, trying to do its best to like, take out the nobility and things that he's led by good intentions. And then he's also torn by his bad intentions, which are always represented with his brown eye of like, trying to almost like screw himself over, his ambition, his quest for power, like that duality to him. He always is in like a constant inner turmoil. And so in the background, we have that whole shit where one of the granddaughters of like the old regime tries to kill him. And he's like, yo, okay. I love that.
Wait. Was that at the end of season 3 or was that big season 4?
I think that's during season 3. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's that like, she hates me, and I love that about her. So he's like super entranced by this girl, and then so he ends up like they're hooking up, and then the Oberstein and Lang, they find out that he's like has her at his house, and then she turns out to be pregnant. So she's trying to ruin him, and he's like, if I found out she was pregnant, I would have had her abort it because I'm not fit to be a parent. She's trying to screw me over. Also, these clowns are trying to screw me over. So then he ends up being appointed the governor of Heinesen and like the Alliance territory.
Yeah, that was all at the end of season 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so a few comments about that. When he revealed that, I guess to Mittermeier when he was telling him that, like, or like telling him about the chick that she's at his house, like she tried to kill him. I was just like, this dude is like such a train wreck. Like he's just like, like just casually like, yeah, she tried to kill me, but I love her. Isn't she so cute? Like she's still trying to kill me as we speak, but we have this amazing chemistry. Like she just hates me. I love her. It's great.
And it's up in the air if he truly loves her or if he's just like, this is some weird shit, but like at least she has some redeeming qualities, like trying to kill me, because he has so much self-hatred that it's like torn into like,
it's like, yeah, kill me. I deserve it.
Yeah. I just imagine him trying to explain this weird kink he has to Reinhardt to defend himself from treason. And like Reinhardt is like, of course, like as we find out later, like the best virgin of all time. Yeah. Like, just the most adorable virgin. So it's like, how do I explain this weird power dynamic kink to him to defend my honor?
Reinhardt's not at that level yet. He hasn't discovered that yet.
He doesn't know.
Yeah, he's still vanilla. But, so, yeah, no, I thought that was interesting. Like,
yeah. What do you think? What do you think of Ruenthal?
It's tough to place him because it's like, I guess like that duality just makes him like difficult to like root for because you kind of don't understand like too much like where he's going, but it is entertaining to like see like where he's gonna go next. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think he's really interesting. I think it's kind of tough to grasp him at first, but I think he becomes more interesting as the show progresses. But I do think he's probably one of the more complicated characters, just because he has like two different facets to him that are constantly at war, and it's never exactly clear who is winning out until certain points. Even when one side is winning out, it's never truly it's never one or the other. So
it gives him like a certain element of chaos. I feel like, you know what? I'll put it this way. Like with his personal life and like that side of it, it's tough to kind of get invested in him and like kind of take that side seriously, because he's just too self-destructive, and that's just like he doesn't even know what he's trying to do there.
Yeah.
But with like his work ethic and like getting shit done and like, you know, with the other stuff, he's just like a boss, like kind of like how he just handles his shit. And then his voice actor is great.
His voice actor is like an all-time iconic voice actor. And he's actually, I saw there's two clips. One, he's a big voice. He's one of the main side characters in Gintama. So there's so many funny clips of him. But I also saw this one sideshow that Sugita, the Gintoki's voice actor, and Nakamura, who does he's like Hawks and My Hero Academia, like both like really big VAs. They had their own show where they would play video games and invite other seiyuu to come on. And they brought on Sakurai, who's like Reagan from Mob Psycho 100, his voice actor, and the three of them were doing parodies of Ruenthar's voice actor. I got to look up his name. Okay. They were doing, nice. I have a clip of it, and it's like the funniest thing ever, because they all sound like him so perfectly, and they're just playing some fighting game. It's so funny.
I gotta listen to it. But yeah, no, it was good, especially like later when he really decides to just say, fuck it, I'll just lead this rebellion in season 4, why not? Yeah. And then that was interesting because he also like went out like a badass. So
yeah, that might be my, I gotta get to that, but this is just so funny. The Homelander of the 80s. I'm dying.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I consider him the Homelander of the 80s, but I can see it. I can see it.
He's also like says the funniest shit like at any point. He's just dropping bangers like nonstop. Because like once he starts like leading the alliance area, they have that like they have the peaceful protest that turns into a riot, and then like a lot of them end up getting killed. And he's like, such valor and bravery from my subordinates shooting into an unarmed crowd. Like, fuck these guys. Like,
no, he has some very like entertaining lines. He's definitely a good character.
Yeah. So what did you think of him starting the rebellion essentially because he felt like he was going to get blamed for it either way?
I thought that was kind of funny.
You thought it was
honestly, like I don't know, it was just sort of like, all right, YOLO, let's roll with it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it too. Where it's like I always kind of thought about it, and if I'm not gonna get blamed for shit like, I haven't done. I definitely
feel like he like there's a part of him that obviously wanted to. Like I feel like it couldn't have just been like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. Like he's like, you know what? I kind of always wanted to. Like you're saying, like let me just lean into it. Why not?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of plays into like his also like practical, like efficient mentality. Like he's like, well, it's already more efficient for me to pursue this rebellion angle because all the pieces are set in place. Might as well. It was on the bucket list. Okay.
Yeah, you might as well get to that point.
But also, I think he also wanted to ignite a fire back in Reinhard too.
Yeah.
Because Reinhard was like lacking like a real challenge, like a real rival since Yang. So
I feel like that too. I felt like that was an interesting element where he was kind of like, he wanted someone to like, he's like, he knew Reinhardt had someone he wanted to fight against. And it's almost funny how he was like, I'm going to play that role for him to try and like, as you said, reignite that passion back in him.
Because I think Ruenthal also likes the idea of a challenge. Well, clearly, chick who's trying to kill him, he wants to get him back. But he also like has that like chivalry and kind of like, or like, I also want to test myself and see how I could, like curious to like how I would stack up against the Emperor or like against Reinhardt or whatever.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
it's interesting. But then it leads to like, it leads to natural, poor Mittermeier, like unproblematic king. He is like, I really just want to chill with my family and not have my friends fight each other. Like
they have like the best like friendship. Like it's so, like I mean, it's Mittermeier making up for most of the positive and like wholesome, like like healthy aspects of it, but still, like they have like they're such bros, So it's
They're
kind of
such
sad when you
bros.
like see them like having to face each other because
Yeah,
there's
he gets
like
put
such like
between both of them, and he's like, I just don't want you guys to fight. Like, I don't want you guys to do this. I don't want to be the one to kill you, but I'm also like loyal to Reinhard and the Empire.
yeah
Like, I feel for
yeah
him.
yeah. He was like the epitome of like honorable,
He was
like
the true honorable.
like doing things like the right way,
He's a goat.
Yeah.
Gotta love him. And
Yeah.
so naturally, it leads to this really interesting fight between the two of them. And at some point during the fight, because of the one dude who was like betraying Ruenthal at like the last minute, so that they start firing at him, and he gets impaled by part of the ship. And they're like, okay, we gotta operate. And he's like, nah, I'm going down in battle, essentially. And he's just like slowly bleeding to death as he goes back to like take command of Heinesen. And he's just sitting there, and he's kind of just like housekeeping while he's sitting there dying. And it's like,
and he pulls it out, and I think he shouts at like one of the subordinates to get his shit together when he's
no, one of the other subordinates screams out. He's like, I don't think screaming out in pain for your superior officer is part of the job description. So the whole thing is just so epic. He goes back, he leaves control to like one dude who's responsible. He brings in douchebag of the galaxy Truant, like President Truant, and he's like, he's kind of like, you were kind of a dick the whole time, but like you sold out democracy, whatever. And then Truant starts insulting Reinhard, and then he just kills him. And he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna let you like insult the Kaiser or what I was like fighting for. So he did everyone a favor and took him out. And then his baby mama shows up, and he thinks that she's going to be like mocking him. And he's like, leave Mittermeier that child so he can have like a good future, referring to the son he had with her.
I feel like Ruenthal's best moments like showed up in those last few moments. Like
he had a goat tour de force.
Entertaining, and like he was entertaining, and like he was complex, and you couldn't really get him, and like it was kind of like mixed before that. But like in those last moments after he fucking got impaled, it's like he was just so metal. Like just
so hardcore.
Like literally took his time to go back to the office, write a letter, and then just die. And it's
my god!
Yeah, I don't have time to wait for this guy to come. So I'm
Mittermeier, you're late. That's like one of those lines that hurts.
I'm done, by the way.
But it's like that's like that one hurts, especially because Mittermeier had that reputation for being like the fastest in the galaxy.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it's so sad.
And then he like drapes the like flag over him. It's so sad. I feel bad. Yeah. That was a great stretch. That was just like,
it was good. It was really, really good. I mean, like I'm sad that like he didn't actually get to face off against Reinhard, like actually like face him one-on-one. But I think at that point, Reinhard was on his way out. So it's like he couldn't. So
it was very interesting to see such a futile effort almost from the get-go. It felt like also kind of like this self-fulfilling like prophecy of like, I think Julian mentions it when he's going through and like kind of writing down history, is like, it's almost like the galaxy was too small for these two guys. So it's like,
yeah, like he was never gonna be more than like he was never gonna go above his station. It's just sort of like that. And then he also essentially not with Reinhard there, and he was also essentially ended up playing into the terrorist plans. What they wanted for him to do. So
yeah,
which sucks. So
sucks
because they suck.
They do. I hate them. They're the worst. Yeah, they are not compelling, and as they should not be.
They're not. So yeah, that was like a pretty good stretch because I feel like a lot of people felt maybe in this like second half of Legend of the Galactic Heroes, again, what I heard, people felt like it lost steam. It wasn't like as it never got as exciting as like when the battles were happening and all that other stuff. Because at this point, there's not a lot of that's going on. So this is like the final like little like bit of turmoil that kind of happened, like tension before like the show kind of like got ready for the end. So
yeah, I think it's kind of this everything after Yang is kind of cathartic and like maybe not the best.
I feel like if I were to put it anyway, I just saw it like as an extended epilogue.
Yeah, that's a good way of
Everything
putting
after
it.
the
I like
end,
that.
just like an extended epilogue.
Yeah,
Um,
the beginning
because
of the end.
I didn't mind it either. Like I thought it was very interesting because it now was more exploring. Like okay, he's an emperor now. He's united the galaxy. Now let's go over like the inherent problems of actually making this thing work.
Yes.
And like him getting a cabinet, him having the police, like everything going wrong.
Yeah.
So
I like the sequence of, he's at some like memorial tribute to the fallen soldiers, and that one dude comes up and tries to assassinate him like terribly, and he's confirmed that like his wife and child were on Westland, which he's blaming Reinhard for bombing. And then Reinhard is like shook. He's like, this dude is making somewhat accurate accusations at me, but he was just shook. And then Oberstein is like, I ordered that, and I would do it again because it would save all these lives. And it was a cool moment for Oberstein to be like, I am very true to my ideals and my beliefs, and I would do it again because the numbers worked out. But Reinhard is shook. He just like cannot handle it. He's feeling so guilty for all of the lives lost because of his own actions. And then you see him kind of him holding on to kind of Hilda, like he's kind of like reaching out to Hilda as for like companionship and support, which leads to them having sex, which I didn't expect, even though he said, please stay the night.
Is that what it meant?
You knew that meant that, right?
No, I know. But at first, I was also like, did he mean, are they gonna?
Because it's anime, and they never do that in anime. In any other series, I would assume that. But because it's anime,
she's just gonna sleep next to him. That's it.
It's what I thought. I literally thought the most PG version of it. And then they show them like him waking up next to each other. I'm like, oh wait, they actually did it. Holy shit! And that was like one of the surprises of the series. And then of course she goes back home, and everyone just automatically knew she hooked up with him. They were just waiting for it to happen. And he shows up.
The Emperor.
And he shows up with the biggest bouquet of roses, and it becomes like a shoujo where he's like trying to propose immediately. And it's like the cutest thing ever. It's so funny.
Yeah, totally like unexpected character turn for him.
I have this funny screenshot of him like blushing over the like biggest bouquet of roses, and her dad is hysterical. He's like, it's like early. What are you guys doing?
I feel like it's like in that moment he reverted back to like his boyish self from like at the very beginning of the series. Because in some aspects, even when he was already like sort of an adult, they would comment on like Reinhard was still like a boy in like, some aspects. And then after Kid Ice died, then he like came in more into like his own more, but still never had time to develop that aspect.
Yeah, and it's so funny and adorable, but I think from the narrative plot perspective, it's interesting because naturally, she becomes his bride, and like their son ends up being the next emperor. But I think it's interesting because it's like, because of that, Hilda, who is always this really like reliable source of advice, information, like strategic partner, she switched roles into being his wife and Kaiserin, and that kind of took another element away from him as like a resource, because she shifted roles and they felt like weirdly conflicted about having her be an advisor in any way, because they didn't want her to have too much to make it seem like she was too biased one way or the other. And I think it was interesting because it showed like there were so many times where he could have benefited from her advice that he was at a loss. So he was kind of losing some of the resources around him because of everything kind of like weighing down on him so much, Yeah.
That's I mean, she was still able to, because at that point though, what was he wasn't doing much at
that's like
at that point.
She wasn't helping out with like the Ruenthal like situation. He was stuck on that planet.
I thought that happened. Didn't the Ruenthal situation, when did he get with Hilda officially? Was that before the Ruenthal situation or after? Maybe it was before.
I think it was before. I don't know. Wait. No, I think it might have been after. No, because let me double check. When does he hook up with her?
I don't know. I don't remember. I thought it was like a lot more towards the end, but maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe
because they get married later. They get married after Ruenthal's betrayal.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So they get married like probably right after.
Yeah, so he hooks up with her before the betrayal because I think it goes they hook up, then he goes on that trip. And that's where like they get on the planet and it looks like they're about to get assassinated and then they're on the way back, but she finds out she's pregnant while he's on that trip, like during Ruenthal's betrayal scene.
Gotcha. And then he goes back.
Yeah.
Takes responsibility.
Yeah.
And then continues on. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So she couldn't really advise him with the whole.
Yeah, because they were so flustered by that whole thing that they're like,
Yeah, but then at later on, he just had Mittermeier deal with it. So
yeah, so they end up getting together. And then I guess the last big fight is Julian and the Isherloin fortress, the last stand for like their democracy.
Yeah, I will say one thing though. During I think this season or towards the end of season 3, at some point they do mention like the backstory of the terrorists or like just the world, like in 2039, how they got led to space, and it was pretty much like. There was a nuclear holocaust, 13-day war between like the United States of Africa and Northern Condominium. And I was just like, is this supposed to be the US and North Korea? And I was just like, okay. And it was like in 2039. I'm like, I think that's what this is supposed to be. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay. And the world's like practically destroyed. And then it kind of gives you the history until like they go into space before the Galactic Empire and all that stuff, which was interesting.
I think this was in season 3 when Julian was going to Earth.
So he was like,
which makes sense.
Recording.
Yeah. But it was interesting to see. It's like, here's why Earth is irrelevant.
Yeah, and I don't know why they'd want to go back. It's half destroyed. It killed like half the population. So, and now there's even less people on it because everybody went to space. So
it reminds me of like Bebop's Earth.
Okay.
Not like the same, but like, it's like, essentially like they can't, it's very rare for people to be on there the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Why? When you can venture out into space.
Yeah.
But, so pretty much it comes down to this last battle, which like at this point, it does seem like Reinhardt is like more open to like other ideas, especially since like the last season or so, like with his weakening health and having memories of Kirk and sort of getting like more in touch with like and being more remorseful about his past actions. He's kind of like opening his mind up to like other things and like other ideas and seeing more of Kirk point of view that he didn't get while he was alive.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that is, I'm going to say this here because I didn't say it before that. I think that is the significance of Kirk dying.
Yeah.
If Kirk had lived, because a lot of times throughout the show, the characters like different characters will bring up like during a situation like, oh, if only Kirk had lived, like how would things be now? Like what would happen if he were still alive? And like it's usually when like Reinhardt is being difficult or he can't like decide what to do or he's making like a tough decision that not everybody is sitting well with. But I think if he had lived, they would have eventually had a bigger rift between them, or it eventually had to have collided because Kirk knew that he would have had to like Reinhardt and Oberstein's methods would have rubbed him the wrong way, and he would have had to take him out. So they would have like eventually like they wouldn't have been able to kind of coexist, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right that he kind of is like he kind of helped them out more as like a symbol and a legend than like a person. Because I agree with you, especially when it became clear that Reinhardt was going to war for kind of like his own sense of self-satisfaction, like especially at the end of like season 3, or not end of season 3, but like when he was going back, when like the Alliance was essentially already subjugated, but he's kind of like, no, we have to go to war because we need to unite the galaxy, which was essentially for his own sense of self-purpose, but it's still leading to millions of people dying because he wants to go back to war, or like him wanting to be on the front lines fighting in all of the wars because that's what makes him feel alive. I got to one point where they kind of essentially hint that like he doesn't really know how to feel. It was kind of like a Cowboy Bebop moment. Like, I'm not going there to die. I'm going to see if I'm really alive. That's how I interpret him, Reinhardt, like going to war is he's like, I'm truly testing myself. This is also like the only way he knows how to like truly win,
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think that would have that definitely wouldn't have flown with
Yeah.
Kierkegaard being alive. And that
Yeah.
kind of probably would have either held Reinhard back because he wanted to kind of honor him. So he
Yeah.
might have not conquered the universe, or the other scenario where he would have just, it would have split them apart. And because he died, he's able to keep existing rent free in
Yeah.
all these
And
guys'
that's
heads.
especially because I think I forgot about it until I forgot, but I think in end of season 1, Reinhardt is thinking of their promise as in, I'm going to take over I will conquer the galaxy. But Kyrgios is thinking of the promise as in, I help protect you, which is the promise I made to your sister. They're thinking of like two completely different promises. So, you know, I don't even know just how much Kyrgios would support him after it's clear that Anna Rose is free. Like once she is safe, how much do you think it's like he would have been along for going to war so often, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like at the very end of his life, Kierkegaard, like the last words he said to Reinhard was like, "Take the universe."
That's true. That's true.
But I think he might have also just said that because it's like, well, you know, you are my friend, and you've always had this ambition, so don't worry about me. Go fulfill your ambition. You know?
That's true. That's true.
And
I think he did
always
support that.
thought that maybe someday he'll see my point of view. He'll come around, you know, hopefully. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was the hope. At that point, he's dying. He's like, I can't do anything at this point. I'm dead. All right, enjoy. I kept my promise. We're all good.
Yeah.
But bringing it back, though, I think, like, so at this point, like, towards the end of Legend of the Galactic Heroes, like, I feel like in the last few episodes, like, Reinhardt is in a state where, like, he's more, like, receptive to, like, more of these ideas and, like, you know, more of, like, you know, to have discussions, to be in, like, talks with, like, Yulian, like, Yang's successor and all that stuff. So I don't know if it really needed to like have a whole fight again with people dying just to get to Reinhard, but Reinhard is of the mentality of like, well, I like the fight and you got to earn, like you got to prove yourself because I don't know you, I know Yang.
Yeah.
You got to prove yourself to get to me. If you can get to me, we can talk. So.
Exactly. I kind of like that because it's also that same kind of almost like, I don't know. It sounds like a cool legend way of putting it, you know, the legend of like trying to fight for ideals instead of like the individual people dying, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, which is cool. And also like sucks for all the cool characters that we lost along the way.
I know. Merzkat, Golden Kampf. Also, this is a good point from Angst that Kyrgios was also a check on Oberstein. So his absence allowed Oberstein to have more influence, which is a good point as like, you know,
always like the two sides. Although I don't know why, like Oberstein had the line when Kierkegaard like died and he like told Reinhard to go see his sister, and then Reinhard walks away, and Oberstein says like when the light dies, like the shadows also become dim. So he was also kind of trying to imply that it's important for Reinhard to have some sort of light.
Yeah.
So he could still have some sort of influence. But unfortunately, his sister was like, nah, man, I'm leaving. So,
so we get more of his sister actually in this, like these last couple episode stretches. And it's interesting to see a bit more of her like perspective on things. And that's where I think that sense of like guilt and feeling like she felt like Reinhard was weighed down by her so often that she wanted to take herself out of the equation to let him go and accomplish his dreams. But unfortunately, it's like, because they had no communication on both sides, despite best girl Hilda trying to mend the bridge, it's like they don't understand how much they need each other to keep moving forward. So it's like, you know, the miscommunications, you know, hurt both of them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's a little late, you know,
damage
already been done.
But she did redeem herself, saving Hilda from that one guy coming in with the gun during the fire, and she threw that shit at that guy and helped save Hilda. So she redeemed herself. That was awesome.
But yeah, so them kind of like fighting, we lost a lot of like the characters, you know, it's kind of the end game. It's like everything's kind of over at this point. Yeah, like I guess let's just talk about the final stretch. Like pretty much like kind of like I guess like the ending, the last few episodes, sort of like how do you feel about like Yulian like having stepped into Yang's shoes, like just stuff like that?
I thought it was really cool. I think it was cool to see them have like conversations, especially towards the end of Reinhardt's life. I feel like we were transitioning from like living during this time towards almost becoming a reflection on history in the making. Like I felt like it was the transition of like Julian is already looking at why Reinhardt is the way he is and how he will be perceived in the future. But two things about the last stretch. We are introduced to the real rivalry of the series, which of course is Oberstein versus Bittenfield, who is the orange-haired guy who just goes the fuck off at any sense. And he just goes off on Oberstein at all points, even when he's apologizing to Reinhardt. And they have a line from the narrator that's like, that didn't stop him from criticizing Oberstein's faults. And he is just a professional hater. There's so many funny lines, but I'll get to that. But that's besides the point. But their dynamic is really funny. But I think Oberstein really shined in these last few episodes because we, of course, see. Am I allowed to skip to the last episode?
Do you want to just go into the last episode?
Yeah, that's kind of. I figured that's what we meant by like last.
Yeah, like I don't know, because I was trying to see if like there was anything else. That
I forget what happens.
But like,
I think it's mostly the last
episode.
Let's
talk about the last episode. Yeah,
I'm surprised they covered so much content in the last episode, but they did a great job. Essentially, we see Oberstein throughout the series as this really shady character who seems very willing to sacrifice others, but for the greater good. And it's always like, how much of him is just, how much is he all talk in terms of sacrifice versus his own self-sacrifice? And we find out that he lured the terrorists out and he told them that Reinhardt was here and that when Reinhardt recovers, he's going to like bomb the shit out of them. So he lured them all out with the intention of taking them out in one fell swoop. And we find out he told them the wrong location or leaked the wrong location. And they bombed the room that Oberstein was in thinking it was Reinhardt. And he essentially died for the sake of taking out the terrorists. And we find out he meant it all along, that no one was as dedicated to the Lohengram dynasty as him. Ride or die.
So, things I loved about that Oberstein death. So, one is he fed his dog. He made sure to feed his dog before he died. Like, he made sure the dog had enough food. One. Two, I love that they said after that, it's unconfirmed. Like, we have no real way of knowing if he actually intended to do this. We just assuming it's actually unconfirmed, which is very on brand for Oberstein.
Yeah.
Because you never really know what he's thinking throughout the whole fucking story.
Yeah.
And then lastly, there was always very, very small, subtle, like, could easily be missed or even like misinterpreted, like moments for Oberstein throughout the series that like he shows a little bit of humanity, but you can't like really tell. It's like, that could mean that, but maybe not. And it's like he has it, but it's just like really hidden away because he's so committed to the cause and his like whole Machiavellian way of like doing things. So
yeah.
So like he's always a character that like just like kind of fascinated me in that regard.
Yeah, I think he's really fascinating. There's a good point. The ironic thing about that is you can kind of see that the missile that missed him during the first Reinhardt assassination finally caught up to him. That's interesting.
That's an interesting.
That's a good way of putting it. I think he's cool because he always stuck to the like.
Oh,
I'm doing.
Wait, I just realized a crazy parallel. Maybe, and this is totally conjecture, but what if he always felt guilty for Kircheis having sacrificed himself for both Reinhardt and essentially himself, that he felt it was finally time for him to sacrifice himself for Reinhardt?
I could see it. I could see that. I think that makes sense.
That's cool.
That's really cool. And I think
another point for Oberstein.
Oberstein, great. I think it's just great that, he stuck to his ideals the most consistently. Like from the beginning, he's like, if I have to sacrifice 2 million for 10 million, I'm going to do it. And then we see later on, he's trying to stop the fighting because he's like, if I have to imprison 10,000 people to stop millions of people dying, I'm going to do that too. It's all about like, no more of this like war for the sense of like honor or shit. He's like, let's just get what needs to happen, get it done, and then call it a day. And he stuck to it up until the end. So you got to respect him. And he loved his dog, which is, got to respect that.
Yeah, because if we know, like with JoJo's, if you don't like your dog, your chances are you're a villain.
Yeah. So that's all the evidence we need. So I think Oberstein, top 3 death. I was impressed.
Yeah. Oberstein up there.
Love that. Really, and then of course we got the big final death.
Yeah. Who was it again? No, just kidding. Reinhard. So how did you feel about it? How did you feel? Like, I guess his death is pretty much the ending. Like it is the end. Yeah. You're talking about his death. You're also talking about the ending. How did you feel about this whole last stretch?
I thought it was really good, and it was very weirdly cathartic. Not like it's not like I felt good about it, but it just kind of felt like we were coming to the end of the story and everything was wrapping up. I love how he set up Ruenthal, aka, and also Mittermeier's kid, to be friends with his own son, Alec, Siegfried. I think he set it up well because we constantly heard the comparisons of democracy is friendship, autocracy is master servant. And I think in the end, what stuck with Reinhard the most is true friendship. And I think him both trying to instill that sense of friendship in his own child that friendship that meant so much to him in his own life. I think it also hints that the new government system that will be implemented will have way more democracy influence because they will value friendships more than master-servant relationships.
Which I think is very telling of what Reinhard wanted, but he couldn't do in his life because he was too bound to his duty and kind of seeing his dream come true. So he rather would pass that on to someone that could start their life anew because he was already too far gone in that direction.
Yeah, I agree.
1. And then 2, I do think it's interesting. What I liked was that he basically, I don't know if I think he told Hilda or whatever, he left it off as he didn't want a dynasty. He didn't want his son to inherit being the emperor or all of that. That it was up to her, that if he wasn't fit to rule, that's it. Give it to someone else. He has to prove himself fit to actually be rule.
Yes.
Which is so much better than
what happened before.
Yeah. So that was actually really good. So that's why when you asked me earlier, if he thought about his legacy, I mean, I feel that's what made me think he didn't as much. He doesn't really if his son is a fuck up, then he doesn't deserve to rule. And that's just it. So it's not I guess he cares about his immediate legacy, but I don't know if he cares so much about what happens later. He kind of wants to leave the universe in a good place. It's more about the universe being in a good place rather than his own lineage, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. And then what did you think about the final shot?
The lights in the sky are stars. It reminded me of Gurren Lagann for some reason, but I was that's such a good line about humans reaching out for, I forget if it was the galaxy or just whatever, but that was such a great shot. And then it's what is it? The legend ends and history begins.
It parallels the reaching out parallels Reinhard's ambition in the beginning.
Yeah.
No, but so that last line freaking killed me. It was just so good. It's oh, now all of this, now it's just another part of just history now. Now we're done. This is done. Now it's now just add it onto the documentary that Julian's going to watch next.
Yeah. On his next flight somewhere. I think it's just such a perfect way of ending it. I feel it was just such a good send off of the story is done. Everything is ended.
Yeah. It was that it ended, but I think also for me, it was just the whole feeling of it really harkened back to whole bigger picture. This is just one story, an impactful story that deserves to be a highlight, one big influential significant event in history, but that it's still part of the bigger story of the human race and the next ambitious person that wants to reach for the stars or create something new. So I was it's so beautiful. So
you liked it too?
Did I like what?
You liked the ending too.
Humble 7.
I love the humble. So it's so unhinged. Also, shout out to Julian and Katarose being together. They're pretty cute.
Yeah, they're finally the legend of the Galactic Heroes. They
We
did
have
it.
finally become legend. I love those meme edits so much.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah. No, I was glad they got together. I was glad with the send off that the other admirals that were even like side, like just like sort of on the side, that their stories kind of getting resolved and or kind of seeing where they're at. You know, Mittermeier with his kid, Kessler with the maid. You know,
That was so cute. That was so like out of pocket cute though. You know.
yeah. Who else? I don't know. Bittenfield being Bittenfield, just sort of just like everybody kind of like, you know, moving on and doing their thing. So I thought that was cool. I'm seeing if like there's another character I remember. What did happen to Rubinsky in the end? He died, right?
He died. Fucking extra. I hate this guy. He died, and he set it up so their bombs would go off as soon as he died. So he tried to take out Reinhardt.
That's right.
Yeah. Number one hater.
I connected it to my brainwave, so when I die, it just kills a bunch of people.
Okay, Mega Man, like, okay. You hate that guy.
Yeah, this is well put. Humans always reach for things outside their reach.
That's true.
There you go. Okay, so that kind of concludes, or unless there's any other remaining thoughts about anyone, I think we'll probably touch on it anyway. That concludes our whole conversation, I think, about the whole show. So now
we discussed,
huh?
Yeah, we discussed the Legend of Galactic Heroes. We have become
that was the legend.
That's the Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Okay, so what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say. So now, should we get into our verdict?
The real reason we're here. The real podcast is begun.
Or favorite characters, either one.
What was the first one? Sorry.
Either what we think of the show overall, rating, or favorite characters.
A humble 7.
I agree with no.
No, okay.
Or favorite characters. If you want to do favorite characters first.
Okay, I was looking my list again because I realized it has changed a bit.
All right, let me pull up.
Did you have yours?
I threw one together recently. I don't even know if it's perfect, but I have one. I have I have enough. I have enough in there.
I respect that.
I did like top 25.
Okay.
Unless you did like tier list with like.
Oh, you did 25? Okay, that's cool.
Well, I only did it just in case, like.
I just did 10. I just did 10. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. That's perfect.
Okay.
There's also so many characters I didn't want to like leave someone out that I was forgetting. So I'm like, okay, this will help me like see them all in one list.
Yes. Okay, I got it. You go first.
Okay.
Because you finished first. So
how do we want to do this? How do we want to do this, chat? Do we want to go like top 1, top 2, or should I just go down?
You can just go down. Do a 10 to 1 countdown. Like start at 10 and end at 1.
No. Okay. Who's your top 1? That's it. Top 1. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Yang.
Yang gang.
I did it myself.
Yang gang. Yang gang.
Yang.
Yang.
Okay. Top 1 is Yang. Top 2 was actually a little tough for me, but I think all in all, I think it's Reinhardt.
Reinhardt for me. I know that those are the big two. I definitely click with Yang a lot more, but I've always liked Reinhardt, and I definitely appreciate him.
Like I didn't like always love like his story, at least in the beginning, because it just felt like a little like it didn't always compel me. It just was like, well, he's gonna just conquer the universe, and there wasn't really too many twists and turns. But as the story kind of went on and kind of seeing his attitude and like who he was as a person, it was kind of like always entertaining and always kind of like cool, very admirable. So
yeah,
he's a good character. Number 3 for me is Oberstein.
That's interesting. Okay, I had Ruenthal.
Oh, okay.
Misogynistic king.
Yeah, man, you got to have your problematic characters up there.
I can fix him. Oh no,
I can't fix Oberstein at all. But
no one can fix Oberstein, but his dog.
He's so interesting. He's one of the characters that just like left me thinking, like just afterward.
He had such a great showing at the end too. He jumped up from.
Yeah. No, sorry. Go ahead.
And by episode 95, when I did my first character ranking, which I shouldn't have released, I had him at like number 9. He has jumped up to number 4.
Whoa. Okay, that's really close because I have him at 3. Yeah, no. Okay. that ending, like that final, like how he went out, I was like, okay,
That hit.
like that really brought it up too. But I always kind of liked him, but that
Yeah.
definitely, like, I had like my theories about him, and I was like, okay, so he really, did have either humanity, or he was just, really committed to the cause, either. But
Yeah.
I respect it.
So who's your number 4?
My number 4 is Shenkop.
Okay, that's cool. I had him higher. I had to lower him, but I like Shimkoff. I think he's just a great guy.
Loved him, like, beginning to end. Like, just, I found no flaws.
Right?
Okay,
he's
maybe he was kind of like not a great dad, but
but he didn't even know. But he didn't try or pretend.
Yeah. So he was pretty cool about it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
good on him.
He was like, if he wasn't number 4, he was definitely top 5, like, for me. Like,
yeah.
So, because
he
was
feel
very
bad.
like, literally, he never disappointed. Like, very consistent character.
Yeah, I feel like I betrayed him a bit in my ranking, but I still love him.
Okay. Consistently badass. Number 5 for me is Ruenthal.
Oh, so there's Ruenthal. Okay, so that's number 5. I got Mittermeier. I love Mittermeier. I love him. He's great, wholesome, like good dude. Just a very solid dude. I love him.
You gotta respect him. He's such a bro.
I actually
got Mittermeier right under. I decided to keep the bros together. So
that's good.
He's like,
so he's
5, 6. It's always like Ruenthal, like edges him
Twin
out.
star.
He's more complex. He's a little more like interesting. He has some good lines. Great voice actor.
Yeah.
But you got to keep them together though. It's the dynamic.
I guess I split them up. I feel bad. Twin stars no longer in my list. I got number 6.
Yeah, because you have Shenkop. Wait, what do you have in between?
I got well, that's kind of ironic. I have Oberstein between them, so that actually happened in the show.
That's true. That's it.
That's accurate.
Oberstein splits them apart.
And then at 6, I have Julian.
Oh, interesting.
I like Julian a lot.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excel confuses me. I have. Okay, I said my 6. So my number 7 is actually Hilda.
Okay, that's cool. You are a true Hilda fan. I have Skunkov at 7.
Oh, okay.
Skunkov. Yeah. So I love him. Every reason you said, but Hilda is my number 8. So close enough. Love Hilda, best girl. I think she's just absolute queen. Very smart, very impressive.
Yeah, she's really good, and she had, like, out of all the women in the show, which there aren't many, she had like the most fleshed out, like, kind of like arc, sort of, like, in terms of what is all this stuff. Okay, she had like the most like development, I think, right? Because she kind of like went from like she was always like the most independent and like doing like her own thing and like kind of having more. She had, I think, the most influence out of all the women in the show. She became the freaking Kaiser in.
Yeah, and she saved Reinhard with when she got everyone to go to the Heinesen. And I like that she genuinely cared about the cause. Like, she wasn't being manipulative. Like, she cared about Reinhard, she cared about his cause, and she was really like invested in it beyond just like the politics or ambition.
Yeah. So she was like definitely top tier character, and she was just like as smart as them, so that's really good.
Your number 8, because I revealed my 8.
My number 8 is your number 8 was Shenkop. My number
my number 7 was Shenkop, and then my number 8 was Hilda. But your number 7 was Hilda.
My number 8 is Julian.
Okay, so we went over him. He's great. Good framing for him.
I have to keep him in the top 10 because, again, he goes hand in hand with Yang.
And he's impressive in his own right. I like him. I think he's just a good, like, solid dude. Love him.
He's got his shit together, man. Really has it together. My what is it? 9? 9 is Frederica.
Oh, that's cool. I have Dusty because Dusty is just ultimate bro. Dusty, ultimate bro, really funny, but also just really solid and like very I like him trying to write a book and trying to frame everything and then like not doing the best job, but he's just a really grounded guy who's also competent.
I like Dusty. I just feel like for me, he was just kind of like there, and I really liked Frederica's dynamic with Yang, and that always like stood out to me. Like I loved like kind of their thing. It was just adorable. But like she kind of went down a bit like after Yang died, just because like I felt like they didn't give her a lot of screen time after that, and sort of
Yeah.
like she was propelled a lot by her dynamic with like Yang, as opposed
Definitely.
to like being on her own and as her own character. So she did some stuff which was impressive, but it was like, okay. But I still like her.
Yeah, I like her. I think she just kind of misses the mark for the reason she misses the top 10. I really like her, but I think she misses the top 10 because I do think a lot of her dynamic is kind of carried with Yang, and so after that, it's
so
like
that's what made it tough. I'm like, but you're still,
Yeah.
as one of the few female representatives in the show, top 10.
Yeah.
So actually, I do have Dusty at my next one. Actually,
number 10.
I have him as 10.
I have Admiral Bukak. Got the GOAT moments. He's a good dude, great admiral. I got him number 10. So
I have him at 11.
So we're pretty much aligned.
Yeah, more or less. Just the order. As long as Yang won. Yang gang.
Yang gang. I know.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, what do you think? I know a lot of other people have like Reinhardt top 1. Do you think that could you see that very easily?
I don't know. I actually have like a tough time with that. Like I don't know. Like I don't know why like they see him like I guess I'm so like for Yang. I just don't know why they wouldn't put Yang as one. So that's yeah. What about you?
I can definitely see it, but I definitely don't feel it as much. I think the reason some people would put Reinhardt is they like that character type, but they also find him to be more complicated, which I don't necessarily agree with either, because I think Yang has his own set of complications and nuances to his character, where like I know some people, I think they think he's like, super perfect or has no flaws, and even they think his flaws are still good, like drinking and napping or whatever. But I think that there's enough flaws in his dedication to his ideals that make him interesting and complicated.
Yeah, his flaws are more subtle. I don't know. I feel like Reinhardt's like is complicated, but like the way I guess they wrote it, like his like that aspect of him like never really like hit for me in that like regard, that I found like his complication like I don't know, as compelling as like Yang, I guess.
Yeah, I think what I find compelling about Reinhardt is when he's like so daring.
Yeah, like
bold, daring, and like he becomes this larger than life persona, especially that one time when like he lands on that planet and like those guys are trying to kill him, and like the forest that's on fire, and they have all those dudes surrounding him, and he just steps forward and he's like, there's only one Reinhard von Lohenheim, like who's gonna be the one to kill me? And one dude even like steps back because he's like, holy shit, this guy is such a force of nature. And I think that's
even when he was feeble, like already kind of like, sort of on his way out, he was still like, he still had that pride. But I feel like, what it is? I feel like they never went like deep enough into his psychology to like illustrate that like complicatedness and make it like interesting for me. So
I can see that.
Like it still felt more for me like what you're saying. It was more of that surface level stuff, along with the other stuff that like made him like a compelling character.
Yeah. I do have to say, to his credit, there is like one moment that really stood out too at the end that I found really unexpected, because I think when you're kind of waiting to see like, okay, what's going to be the send off of this show. And I think what moment like might have hit me the hardest among many of the moments that hit really hard is that scene where he's dying and his sister is like, are you still dreaming? And he's like, I've dreamt dreams that like most have never been able to see. I have to find the exact quote because I put it down, but it's just this really kind of like interesting cathartic moment of like his sister feeling bad that the course of his life, but he's weirdly content despite having all of the dreams that he could have had in life. Where'd it go?
Yeah, I feel like if they would have dug into more of that aspect, like even if it was at the end, like a little more, I think I would have found that more compelling.
Yeah.
But that was kind of it. Like I'm saying all this stuff, and then at the end of it, I'm just saying all but top 2.
Yeah, because it's more of like, I think if you're in the same boat I'm in, it's like, why is this character someone I really enjoy and appreciate versus like top one of all time kind of thing.
Yeah. So
we're speaking of it in the scope of legends, legendary anime, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, like.
Yeah. So like that's like I don't know. That's why like when I guess I see a lot of like Reinhardt top one, I'm just like, well, but Yang.
I still see it though. I can understand it. Probably a bit. I might be a bit more warm to Reinhardt than you. Like I could definitely see it, but I don't connect with him as much for sure.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I guess it's that lack of connection that like bothers me a little bit.
Yeah.
But like that's why like right before this I was just like, is he number 3 or is he number 2? But I think like towards the end and after everything, like I think I really like appreciated him a lot more, and a lot of the like kind of like his character arc and all of that stuff that I'm like, no, and he was just such a presence throughout all of the show that it's like hard to not have him like, like up there. So it's like, yeah, no, he's a big part of it. So yeah. But still working on wrapping my head around it.
Yeah. Maybe a rewatch, or maybe if we watch the new series, or maybe what is it called? The Gaiden series, which is like it's essentially like side stories with the same characters. Maybe you'll have a moment where you're like, I see it. I see the vision.
I see it. I see the torment in him. It interests me. So yeah, that's kind of like my list. It goes down all the way to 25, but I kind of just.
Oh, that's impressive. I will do one, and then we can post that later.
It's okay. Like some of these, I was like, okay, I think I like this guy. I think I like this person. I definitely like this person. There's somewhere in here, and then I just threw them on. So, yeah. But I captured all I think we mentioned all like the main,
big players.
Yeah. I will say Anna Rose, I think I pronounced her name, Anne Rose, is like nowhere on this list. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like they also don't like delve into her enough to me for her to be on this list,
Well, I got Kirky Ice on my list.
Yeah, I mean, he would make the list. He's good.
Yeah, he's like 14, I think.
That's good. That's a good placement. I'll have to see.
All right, so last part, unless we have something else to mention, but
I think that's it.
We're kind of hitting on 3 hours.
Yeah, we are literally 3 hours of.
So we're gonna wrap it up here. So last thing is, do you want to give a rating for the show? Do you have one?
Let me see.
What's the verdict?
I think I have a rating.
Made it into your, huh?
I have a rating. Do you have a rating?
Has it made it onto your
I want to find
your like future revised top 50, top 10.
I forgot 20. I did that. Like, I keep watching these shows, and it's like, am I gonna revise it? I don't know. It's
I have a rating.
Okay. So, what is your rating?
No, you go first.
Well, I wanted to find a creative way of showing it. Yeah. Let me see.
Yeah, I think you can find a creative way, but you're going first.
Okay. Let me see. Let me see if I can. I kind of want it. Let me see. I can do it. 1 second. I know what to do. Okay. There's only one way. Can only do it the one true way. And that is through Fantano scores. So I was not prepared for this because we did our our sketch, but it's got to be. Why is it like not? Thank you, StreamYards. 1 sec. And let's see if it'll do it.
Whoa, 10.
We got it.
That's crazy.
Sorry it took so long, but got to do it. Humble 10. Humble 10.
Humble 10. Okay, I don't even know what that means, but
I don't know what that means either. I made that up.
Oh, wow. So it's definitely, it broke the top 10 then, right?
I think my 10s are overreaching. I think it is.
You have too many 10s.
I do. I have to hate anime now. Full-time anime enjoyer t-shirts coming soon. I I think I do the exact opposite of some people where they're like, if something's like a new favorite, they automatically shoot it to the top and then they realize they weren't as high on it, so it goes down. I'm the opposite, and I almost have like a weird promotion system, kind of like the military. So it starts at the bottom of my tens, and then after time goes by, I see how it goes up.
Okay, that's good.
I think that makes it like number 16 or something.
So my next question was going to be, do you think, obviously it didn't because it's at the bottom of your tens, but like as other people have said, like that now Legend of Galactic Heroes is so good it has ruined other anime for you because there's nothing like it.
I don't think so. I think it's like, I don't think I've ever experienced a piece of media that I think will ruin other media. If I'm being honest, I get the point where they're like, "Oh, it does everything perfect."
They usually say it in terms of anime because we got a lot of anime that aren't great.
I think that's true. I think that there are some like very inherent strengths to the Legends of the Galactic Heroes, like the characters. We're obviously like we love so many of them that you can make a top 25 list, and people they love them and whatever. I think the themes are really good. The way they explore them are well, but I don't think that it was such an overwhelming experience that I can't see the strengths being replicated elsewhere. And I would say that with like half of my favorites. I don't think maybe more than half my favorites. I think it's just like a great experience that I think others should experience. I always joked like, okay, I finished Legends of the Galactic Heroes. I can quit anime now. I don't think I can quit anime, even though I did finish it. Even though maybe I should, but
you should finish anime. Just finish it all.
Just end it. End of Anime Galleon. So what about you?
I definitely don't think it I think there is something to that where I think there isn't a lot of anime that I think will be able to be like Legend of the Galactic Heroes because if anything, in terms of its scope, like very few are probably gonna reach the level of Legend of Galactic Heroes. And I mean, I'm sure it's possible, obviously, but like we don't usually, I don't think we get anime like that nowadays as much. But but it's possible. But for that, I think it's unique, and I feel like if you're looking for that specifically, especially if it's like a space opera, you're not gonna find that. So that's like that's probably like where it's like the peak. But yeah, I definitely think like there's just anime that if you like have an open mind, if you like different stories, then obviously you're gonna find experiences that are just as good. But long story short, I'm padding this out. For me, Legend of Galactic Heroes was a strong 9.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. After I said all that, strong 9.
No, I think that's really fair though. I knew you gave it that a bit ago. And did
I tell you?
No, I just saw it on Mal.
Did I? Wait.
Yeah, you gave it a score.
No, I did not.
I would, but
Oh, was it because I rated everything recently?
Yeah, you did. So you betrayed yourself.
Crap.
But I also think I was honestly like up until the very end, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's like kind of a 9. But I think just the overwhelming scope of everything, the way it sat with me, the way I kept thinking about it, and just like seeing like such an epic story coming to an end, that's when I was like, yeah, this feels like a 10 experience.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely edges out, obviously, some other like well-known top 9s I have. But like the thing is, like the tough thing was it was really shaping up to like probably be like a 10 for me. Like I was really enjoying everything. I'm even sometimes like even before this, like maybe like a few months back before I even thought of revisiting this podcast, I was like having thoughts of like, wait, is it a 10 for me? Because I'd find myself like thinking about it, like kind of reminiscing about watching it and being like, oh, I want to like go back to that world, or like some of it was like thought provoking, and I was just found myself thinking about Oberstein or something, just like just things about the show like that are like, oh, that was like so interesting, and just like kind of putting all the pieces together, seeing all the different sides and no one being exactly right. So I was like, oh, maybe it is a 10, but I don't know. But at least with my initial like viewing and how I felt, I just felt like that like while I love the ending and I thought everything was good, I thought the ending was beautiful, I thought everything was well done. I just wanted a little bit more of like, I feel like it wasn't as like emotionally compelling for me, like the ending. It just sort of like was what it was. All right, like it's wrapping up. This is where it's going, and you kind of saw this ending like already in sight for like maybe like 10,
Yeah.
20 episodes. It was like, okay, this is just sort of like the inevitable. So because
Yeah.
it ended like that, it was like it wasn't as like emotionally riveting. So
Yeah.
that's like kind of held it back, but I still liked everything else that was there. So I was like, okay, this is like just shy of
Yeah.
you know, that feeling. So yeah.
And I think it's really tough, especially because I think I'm not sure what percentage, but I think there is a lot of like, how much are you emotionally invested and do you connect with everything versus how much do you, sorry, microphone, versus how much do you like appreciate everything going on? Like you appreciate the complexity or the like, you know, thematic events going on. And oftentimes those two coincide, but sometimes I think it is like, you know, sometimes you're left being like, oh, I really appreciate this, but I don't really feel for it that much. And I can definitely see like at the end of season 3 when Yang dies, you're like, okay, I'm not going to be as emotionally connected to anyone else who's still remaining, no matter what happens per se.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, it's kind
I
of tough
mean,
when you get to the end and you're like,
yeah. And I definitely get people who were in that boat. I was
Yeah.
like sort of in that boat, like when Yang first, like when he died and like the moment in the first few episodes after, I'm just mourning. But I was genuinely actually interested in like what was going on.
Yeah.
Because I saw some complaints about the final season. I'm like, no, I was actually still just interested in
yeah.
seeing like the issues with ruling and the commentary on that. And so
yeah, I like the final season a lot. I don't think it's
Yeah.
weaker than the other seasons.
yeah, it was still interesting in its own right. It was just like a different now like dimension of like having, you know, now conquered, you know, and like, okay, what's going on now? Like what's the actual solution? So I still enjoyed it. But back to what you were saying, I've actually like been making more of that distinction recently between like and appreciate. Like there's such a fine line. And and for a long time I would be getting caught up in the whole I appreciate this, and confusing that for liking something. And then realizing like, no, just because I appreciate this doesn't mean I actually like it.
Yeah.
Liking it means I actually want to watch this again, or I actually want to experience this. It just means, oh, I get what other people like in this. I respect this. But it doesn't mean like I gravitate towards it.
100%.
So like, oh, okay. So now I'm like shoving those things I appreciate to the side and be like, no. Do I clearly like this or not? So
yeah. And I think we both like it. It's just how much.
Yeah. You clearly like it more.
Well, we both like it a lot. I don't think we should underplay how much you like it.
Yeah. No. I don't, you know, I don't like it that
Humble.
much.
Humble
Strong
7.
9.
Humble 7.
Utmost 9.
Well, the only way we can determine how much you like it is if you do another ranking of your favorites, which we cannot determine at this point in time.
Yep. Like to
Bully arc.
But yeah, no, it's definitely somewhere in my favorites. Definitely made it somewhere there. But then again, you know what? That is a high ranking because I have very, very few 10s.
Yeah, you're doing anime right, unlike me
like
and my
very
10s.
Few 10s. So
I think I have like 16 10s now.
I think I have like 1.
You just have Ava?
No, I'm sorry. I have like 4.
Let me find out. Everyone stalk Onimaru's Mao.
No, hold on. I don't think I rated Legend of the Galactic Heroes, by the way.
You did. You gave it a 9.
No.
I see it on Mao. That's the only source of information I have.
Dude, I played myself.
You have 3 10s.
I played myself.
Wait, how do you have 3 10s? I kind of love this for you because your 3 10s are Neon Genesis Evangelion, End of Evangelion, and Haikyuu Season 3. The big 3. Call that my big 3. I love that.
Now you have reminded me of the recent Haikyuu announcement, and now I'm really sad.
Did I ruin it? Oh, the new Haikyuu.
You just reminded me. I saw it on my feed. I was talking about it with a friend. I was just like, dude.
So sad. I think it'll be good, but like we can get into that. But it'll be good, but not the same.
Yeah. It could be a separate pod, but
yeah,
it might not be the same. I mean, my friend saw it still working, but I'm like, yeah, but they're cutting out so much content.
So is it going to be the manga arc for you?
Maybe.
It's good.
I don't know. When are the movies set to like come out?
Well, I think they're going to come out in 23 and then 24, but you know, it takes like another half year for us to get it. So we're not getting all of it until 2025.
Maybe it will be the manga arc. Maybe I can finally join my friends and like knowing what they know. Did I rate this? Okay. Wait. Sorry, I'm like looking through my mail. Don't mind the silence
No.
at all.
That was
It's not on here. Wait.
What are you looking for?
It. My legend. Oh, you know why? Because it's in Japanese.
Because we forgot the title. There it is.
No, it's because like Mal puts it in Japanese.
Yeah.
Shit. I did play myself. Why are you stalking?
But I didn't spoil it for other people.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyways, okay. I think that's it. I think we have covered everything that has been 3 hours. So hope you guys had a good time with the pod. If there's something we missed that you want our opinion on, now's the time. Let us know.
Yang, wait, not my friend, is Yang in the top 20 characters? Yes.
I mean, I don't have that sort of list, but I'm gonna say yes.
You gotta get that. I will make your list.
I'm gonna say yes. I mean, I think I have an idea for like a future stream with like popular characters, so and rankings. So
I'm gonna reveal the placement and the big post later, but I have an idea.
Amen. Yang's good. Yang good.
Big shout out to everyone who stayed for 3 hours of Legend of the Galactic Heroes talk. They were the true Legend of the Galactic homies.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining.
For some reason you stuck around and have not watched Legend of the Galactic Heroes, this is your incentive to go watch it. Yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to leave it off here because we are probably hungry. So besides that, catch us on the next stream, which is
next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
We're gonna and we have a really exciting guest. We have announced it on Twitter, but we're gonna be talking to Colleen's manga recommendations. Manga, guys, reverted back to true American English to say manga, but and she talks a lot about shoujo and josei anime. So we're gonna kind of like follow up on the fruits basket discussion that we were talking about of like shoujo and josei manga in the community. So
yeah. And if you didn't catch that pod, that was like a few months back. Just go on the channel, check that one out. We just
explore our lore. Check out check it out.
Fruits basket falls in the shoujo pantheon, but we're just going to talk about more shoujo, josei. There's a lot of really good ones. But anyways, if you enjoyed the stream, like it, definitely leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought, especially if you weren't able to join us live. And subscribe if you haven't already. We're close now to 1,000. We're trying to get there, so help get us there. And besides that, those are our opinions on, Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Yang Wenli, top one.
Yang Gang.
Because that's just the truth. We're just weebs.
Yang Gang.
Catch you guys later.